Use our referral link below to check out Dragon Shield and use discount code TAGC5 for 5% off at checkout. Or pick up a box of our custom TAGC sleeves. Woohoo! Hello and welcome, listeners, back to our 2026 Korvold Ultimate CEDH Guide. I'm here with probably the most knowledgeable Korvold player on the planet, Eric Taylor. What's up, Eric? Thanks for joining us on this awesome, I guess you would call it a part two? Or is this just kind of like a completely different version? What are your thoughts on what we're doing today?
It's kind of a part two, but it's also going to be a lot different. I think it's going to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit sharper. We have a lot more post dockside games under our belt.
Yep.
And it's going to probably be a revelation to some of the Korvold pilots, especially the ones in the Discord. I might be a little harsh, so don't take it personally, but
Yeah.
we're going to get into some juicy stuff.
Yeah, and before we get into all this, this is going to be a very long, deep dive episode, so strap in, listeners at home. But we have a couple things we want to promote. First and foremost is the Korvold Discord. If you are interested in brewing this awesome dragon, whether it's through CEDH or in other brackets as well, check out in the link down below. I will post a link that will not expire, because last time I think I posted one that expired. On the last episode to the Korvold Discord. If you want to chat Jund or just learn about Jund in general, it's an awesome place. We have thousands of people in that Discord, and we just want to grow it even more. So check out the Korvold Discord. The second thing I wanted to promote is the Quest for a Cause. This is a 10K CEDH tournament in Portland. I'll be there playing Korvold, hopefully winning the whole tournament, right, Eric?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's always the goal.
Yeah, right now, I think as of this recording, we have like 120 something signups, and we're like a month away from the tournament. So there is going to be a good chance that this tournament gets over 200 players, and it is going to be a blast. So if you can make it out to Portland, May 15th through the 17th, folks, please check out the link down below to the Top Deck signups page. Additionally, there is an auction, a charity auction. All proceeds go to the Children's Cancer Association, so check out a link there as well. You can find a TAGC bundle and a bunch of other creator items that you can bid on, so all of it helps the Children's Cancer Association, so check those out. All right, Eric, without further ado, let's get into our Ultimate 2026 Korvold Guide. So last time we started this, we had two very different decks, right? I was on a very lands focused build, and you were on a non-land focused turbo necro Nas, kind of what I guess a lot of people call a traditional Korvold build. I'm not sure how you feel about that descriptor of the deck, but now we are on a very similar build. I described this build as a turbo lands base necro Nas deck. So kind of using lands in order to make explosive mana and then convert Necro and or Nas. But it can pivot into mid-range as well. So that's how I describe the list. We are currently 8 cards apart or 9 cards apart, depending on the day of our lists. But we're just going to be talking about the list strategies that we're currently using, but also other ways that you can pivot your Korvold list. I think there are a ton of viable strategies, and it's one of the reasons why we love this deck so much. So that's my description of the list. Eric, let's hear your description of your Korvold list.
Yep, that's a really good descriptor of the current list for both of ours. The list that we actually recorded the video last time was pretty much what you described with a small lands package. I was just on like the Nissa, Tyler's Provisioner, Aftermath Analyst stuff, and Warren, Soul Trader, and Chatterfang, which you do not see in the current list. Or I don't think in either of our list. I'm going to have a hot take about those two cards when we get into
when we
those
get
combos.
To it.
Yeah. But honestly, that's what I would describe it. It's still a very explosive Jund Turbo list that happens to have quite a bit more staying power. And in reality, it's just substituting the traditional reanimation spells like Unearth and the multitude of those types of things on something like Dockside Extortionist, utilizing lands to basically be a facilitator for the explosive landfall strategy, even though it's not the entire deck, and which allows a lot more customability versus, you know, a full-on super lands package, like something like Lord Windgrace or Hearthhole or
Yeah.
decks of that nature.
Yeah, or some of the OG traditional Japanese landfall Korvold decks, because that's where the inspiration of this deck came from, right? The original Japanese landfall decks were very similar to a Lord Windgrace deck. This is some Korvold history for the newer Korvold players out there. So those were like heavy landfall strategies, and we've kind of created this interesting hybrid where we're still doing the Necro-Naz things, but instead of, like you said, the unearth targeting dockside being our main explosive mana, it's now landfall stuff. So I think it's a great descriptor, Eric. Before we go any further in talking about this list specifically, I kind of want to just talk about the architecture of this video and how we are going to structure it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about how you win the game on Korvold, different strategies of winning on our current list, and then talking about other strategies that other pilots use or strategies in other style of decks that we play and test. And then after that, we're going to kind of get into the more nuanced detail version of which cards are powerful, what interactive suite, protection suite, and kind of just get into the whole list. But we're going to start with ways that we win the game and how we win the game, and then move on from there. So before we get into win cons, Eric, are there any other lists or styles of lists that you want to highlight that you've been testing?
I have played in 4 local tournaments, 32 plus players, up to 48 players. I've been fortunate to win some of those. I won the largest one a few weeks ago on a hybrid lands Bolus Citadel list, is the best way to
Nice.
describe it. And I took a lot of inspiration from the Glarb Japanese list. Anybody who knows, I love the way the Japanese culture builds their, not just their commander decks, but their 60 card decks. Typically, they push against the grain a lot of times.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to see what that felt like. It's not that I didn't have any type of thoughts of like, oh, this is gas or this is bad. I try to always go into it with an open mindset. And I was like, okay, what are they doing? What can we do in Jund that's similar? And does that match? They don't have access to welders. We do. So it was, you're going to see a lot. It was a lot of welder stuff. And honestly, no matter what the deck did, Ice Tool Explorer was probably always like the best creature in the deck.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because that card was really powerful, just milling for Bolus the Citadel, but also putting Bolus the Citadel in the graveyard, which was really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, that's a card that I'm sure is going to come up often in this episode because that's something that was not out when the last time we did our 2025 Korvold video.
Oh,
It's going to have its own section for sure.
yeah. It just dropped basically a lot of the stuff, which also brought the synergies for where the decks are now, like right after our last video.
100%.
Oh, man. I remember playing in a tournament, and this is a very, very quick tangent. Knowing that Ice Steel Explorer's coming out and going, I hate my deck list. It doesn't have the Ice Steel Explorer in it. Like, and the card's already been spoiled because it got
Yeah.
leaked. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, this could be Ice Steel Explorer right now. But
But it's
anyways,
not. Yeah.
but it's not.
Okay. Well, we'll link that Bolus's Citadel list as well down below in case anybody wants to check that out. I do know that that list is beloved by a lot of members of the Korvold Discord. I think Jorge really likes playing Bolus's Citadel style lists. So shout out to Jorge, shout out to Edgar, shout out to everybody in the Discord. If you join the Discord, those are some of the faces that you're going to see. So great. Let's get into how we win the game, Eric. So my list and your list, some of the biggest discrepancies in the 9 cards that we have different are how we win the game. So we'll start off with your win conditions. First and foremost, let's talk about your land-based strategy and infinite outlets.
So I built my list to be very minimal win cons as much as possible. That's typically how I've always played Korvold in general. I really want to maximize my card slots because if I'm able to do that, I get to squeeze a little bit of extra stuff out of it, whether it's one extra piece of protection, one extra sack piece, whatever that looks like. I
Mhm.
can kind of maneuver those numbers around, which, for anyone's builds that's following these shells, that's what allows the flexibility. Currently, right now, for looping with lands, I'm going to win with Mayhem Devil.
Mhm.
And then I also have Praetor's Grasp as a win con, which are pretty much iconically my two biggest win cons since the previous Strixhaven set came out, which is more Witherbloom, Chain of Smog. But I'm currently not on those, but
Mhm.
always have the adaptability to put those into the list.
Yeah. So you say that Mayhem Devil and Praetor's Grasp are your two main win conditions, but the old Eric Taylor adage of all roads lead to breach is going to have me ask about the win con that's not necessarily a win con, which is Underworld Breach. What are your thoughts on Underworld Breach and how it functions in your particular build?
Well, the beautiful thing about the landfall list that we're playing is that it shares a lot of similar traits to something like the Wandering Minstrel or even the Lord Windgrace Turbo Nos list that's out of Europe, those types of things. Underworld Breach is still one of the most powerful win cons in the game. And honestly, we're not on Tainted Pack either,
Mhm.
which is a powerful tutor at instant speed, but we don't have that, where we have to like tutor for something out of desperation and then we happen to exile our win cons. We have the Underworld Breach that's going to get us to whatever win cons it is. So, whatever win con package you choose to be, as long as you have one of those in your deck, you can win the game. You do not have to fear and jam, five different win cons in your list unless they just happen to be good cards within your strategy. Like if you
Mhm.
decide to play one of the other tutors and it was Finale of Devastation or something of that nature, or Spring Heart and Tuco or something like that. Those still operate as win cons, but ultimately the most powerful win con in the deck is Underworld Breach because with access to Breach, you get access to your whole deck. And I think most people who just operating Underworld Breach can win the game from there as long as they know how the deck wins and operates.
Yeah. And I think that this is a really important point to make for the newer Korvold players right now. And maybe you agree or disagree with this. In 2025, when we put out the first video, we talked about how important Breach was. To this day, slightly, actually, pretty sizably different build than what we talked about in 2025. I still win 80 to 90% of my games with Breach active on the field, right? So it is imperative that you play Breach, and the majority of games that you win you will have a breach on the field. Is that accurate?
Yeah, because the deck does a lot of powerful things with layering, whether that's through six or shifting woodlands, which also give you access to your breach. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing that just allows you to almost be removal proof in those types of cards. And once you get that, you could even use breach as an early like regrowth effect with as
Yeah.
long as it's going to put you ahead
Mm-hmm.
and then just let it die because you're going to have those other cards that's going to allow you to get it back and then
Yeah.
still continue to do whatever you're trying to accomplish as your in game state. So,
We might be the deck that value breaches the most because guess what? You value breach, sack trigger, and end step triggers Korvold. How often does that come up? Not very, but it happens.
it happens. It's been a while, but it
It's been a
happens.
while. I only say that because that happened to me recently at a tournament. I got blown out, and then I was like, "Oh, okay. I think I got enduranced." And then I had breach out and Korvold out. Then I passed, and then I was like, "Oh, Underworld Breach sack trigger, Korvold trigger, draw a card."
Did the endurance player win?
No, we drew.
Because the endurance player doesn't
Yeah,
win.
yeah. Okay. So we reviewed a Mayhem Devil and Praetor's Grasp as being the main win cons in your deck. I do want to backtrack slightly. For the
Okay.
listeners at home, let's talk about how we get into a board state or what kind of combos we're using in order to set up for infinite sacrifice triggers that can ping down the table with Mayhem Devil. So let's talk a little bit about what those A plus B plus C combos are, specifically in regards to lands.
So with Mayhem Devil, you have a few ways to get to it. Whether that is going to be the Aftermath Analyst loop, which we discussed in our previous episode, which is going to consist of Aftermath Analyst, ideally squandered resources, and shifting woodlands and lands in your graveyard. That's going to, as long as you have Delirium, your shifting woodlands can become the Aftermath Analyst after the initial sack. Or if Aftermath Analyst got milled or killed, or you just value brought it, sacrifice it to bring some lands back, You're going to sack your lands to squander resources, leaving your shifting woodlands, turn your shifting woodlands into Aftermath Analyst, and then you're going to rinse and repeat that loop as long as you have Delirium.
Yep.
And that's going to allow you to have potentially infinite mana or infinite sacrifice triggers. With Mayhem Devil out, you just ping down the board.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about this particularly is that that combo is kind of like a combo where every single part of it really is interchangeable, right? So you really
Right.
only need, if we really dumb it down, it's like you need a land sacrifice, something that sacrifices lands, whether that's a squandered resource, which is the most potent one. I think we can both agree on that. A Sylvan Safekeeper, a Zurin Orb, and in a small version, sometimes with Breach active, this is a very fringe case. You can use Rain of Filth multiple times. That being said, once you have a sack outlet, you just need some way to pull back those lands. So whether that's Aftermath Analyst or Lumra, I think we're both on Lumra currently. And sometimes whether or not you have a 6 out or an Underworld Breach out, you can recast the Lumra or recast the Aftermath Analyst. So sometimes Shifting Woodlands isn't even necessary in order to create an infinite loop or a loop that's infinite enough to get you to a winning position. And then the last but not least, the reason Squander Resources we say is the best aspect for a land sack outlet is because it fills the category of being a land sack outlet, but also creating mana at the same time. So if you have something like a Zurin Orb, which doesn't create mana, you need some way of generating mana from the pullback of the land. So sometimes that's a Lotus Cobra or a Tireless Provisioner or a Nissa. Those are the main three that create the mana, so that you can eventually restart the loop once again. Whether that's recasting the Aftermath Analyst through Retrace through 6 or through Breach, or using that Shifting Woodlands to bring it back. So all of those combos, which might scare a lot of new Korvold players, are described in detail in our primers. So once again, pull up that list, make sure that you click that primer button and read through all of these combos. We're just going to breeze through them, and they might sound incredibly complicated. They're not as hard as you think, and they're kind of toolboxy, so you can kind of do them in many different ways. So that's one of my favorite reasons I think that this is the number one way to win the game on this list, is because all of these generically good cards can slot into a combo in itself. How much of that thought process drives your decision making when building your list, Eric?
I would say that is definitely up there. Like I said, I want the quality of cards. Well, first off, we're in Jund, so we're already limited in those stapley cards that just kind of auto slot in, whether that's blue's counter spells, draw engines, even their some of their removal spells, white's removal spells, silence effects, smothering tithe, treasure makers, those types of things. Jund doesn't have that, and being land specific. One thing that we do have is all the powerful rituals that fall into our color suite, which one of the things that Jund is typically known for is its mana production and speed. I think Squander Resources really changes the game in terms of whatever land sacrifice list you're trying to play of any deck type, which is why I highly value something like a Wandering Minstrel list quite a bit, is just because it gets access to the Squander Resources, which happens to be a mana ability. So
True.
they can't respond to that. So you get to do some cool stuff with that occasionally. But what Kyle said is so true, that all those cards are just good. Like Mayhem Devil breaks up board states. Shifting Woodland is a really powerful land that can be anything. It can be a game-winning piece. It could be a value piece. It could be whatever you need it to be. Aftermath Analyst, while something you don't think about, blocks Timna, but it just puts cards in the graveyard. It could potentially get your breach line started if that's the case. And it just happens to also, if you just sack it and put 3 to 4 lands back into play and you get to untap with that, I mean, that's a pretty good rampant growth like effect, except for it's extremely powerful in what the deck's trying to do.
And Aftermath Analyst, not only that, I do think that 2-drops are probably the biggest hole that this list has. Both of our lists. I think that we might talk about this a little later. We have a lot of really good 3-drops in Jund, like a lot of really good 3-drops for our list. But we really don't have a ton of solid 2-drops. So Aftermath Analyst being one of the best ones, and it happens to be an elf, which means that it's tutorable off of the Nissa second trigger, which is incredibly relevant, as Nissa herself is part of that combo in terms of being able to generate the mana. So effectively, Nissa becomes two parts of a three-part combo because it can find the pullback effects. But we'll get into that a little bit later. The last win con I wanted to talk about that's in both of our lists is six loops. So six loops we talked about in our 2025 episode, so we'll go over it really quickly. With six, you're able to use Life from the Loam and either a Lotus Petal and an LED with Korvold on the battlefield to effectively retrace and dredge through your entire deck. So you'll cast your Life from the Loam for one and a green, bringing back 1 to 3 lands, and then recast either the Lotus Petal or the Lion's Eye Diamond. Activating those mana abilities will trigger Korvold, which will trigger the Dredge to bring Life from the Loam back to your hand, and then voila, you are dredging through your deck while netting mana. So that's the last combo that both of us are on. Did you want to make any comments about the six combos and how they have shifted in the past year or so?
Well, I was going to just say for newer players, especially with the LED line, if you're, we hear this a lot, they're always worried about Orcish Bowmaster. That's just a great line to go through and ignore Orcish Bowmaster, specifically with the LED. Also ignoring Smothering Tithe as well, because you're not drawing the card. So
Yep.
that allows you to actually get into your Dredge into ultimately your Beseiju, and then you can just
Yes.
Beseiju the board
Yep.
because you're just going through it and you're not triggering that. So that's just a little like pin I wanted to put in there for newer players to think about. So don't be scared of those cards when you have the ability to recurve Beseiju to break up, like whether it's lock pieces or Ristic like effects. You have the tools to deal with that.
Yeah, the majority of the time that push might not feel safe, even if it's into multiple heuristics. But the second that you find Beseiju, you are already netting mana on every single iteration of it. So you'll be able to cast the Beseiju. In order to have started the loop, you have a legendary out. So it's literally only one green. So the second you hit Beseiju, you're able to pop one Ristic and then do the loop one more iteration, bring Beseiju back, as well as two other lands or one other land. It doesn't matter. And then pop the next one as well. So I do think that that is one of the combos that people get very afraid of doing into those engines. But generally speaking, it's pretty easy to fight through those. Additionally, you can find Talon gates in this iteration. So if there's some sort of hate bear out there, or even if it is Bowman, it can be whatever, an opposition agent, let's say. You can also phase those out by getting Talon gates and Madara back to your hand. So you got a lot of options with that combo. I think it is one of the safest combos that we play. And I think it's also one that catches a lot of people off guard, which is pretty sweet. The last combo that is in our list, that is in my list rather, but isn't in yours, Eric, is Witherbloom Chain of Smog. So this is the old tried and true, the Golgari special. It's an A plus B combo for 4 mana. You're able to effectively drain down the board through loss of life specifically. So it doesn't deal damage. You can do it through the One Ring. It's just a really potent A plus B combo. This is something that goes in and out of your list, Eric. It has never left mine. So I'm a massive stan of this combo. I think that especially for newer players, when they have access to their entire deck, it can kind of still, they can get kind of scared with how they actually win the game. And I think that this kind of is a bit of a crutch for those players, including myself, really. But it also allows for some really cheeky early wins that I think are important, because finding wins in Jund is really difficult on its own. So being on a combo piece like this that can once in a while get a turn 2 on the play win, I think is a very positive thing. So Eric, why don't you talk a little bit about Witherbloom Chain of Smog and your thoughts on it? Because I know you kind of waffle back and forth on it often.
In Land's list, I think in specifically the way you're describing it, it's a really good one, because the one thing that it does, it allows like Kyle's list to get under other decks. And that is, I would say, one of the downsides to my list. I don't have that ability to turn to you, like, unless it's just ad nauseum necropotence or something like that, but it
Mm-hmm.
actually A plus B you out of the game. Um, that's something that's really good about his list. It also just gives a little bit more access to something like Summoner's Pact or Grains of Zenith, because Witherbloom happens to be a green black creature. And I don't know if you've ever had to do this for whatever reason. Have you ever
I know
had to
exactly what you're talking
do
about. Here
the
we
life
go.
from the loam loop and basically drain everybody out?
No, I haven't done that. That is not what I thought you were going to ask, Eric. I'm not going to lie. I thought you were going to say, have you ever had to value Chain of Smog somebody? And I was like, yes, I absolutely have value Chain of Smog somebody who is going to win. The life from the loam loop is real. I definitely have been in a scenario where I have had to cast Witherbloom Apprentice, not having Chain of Smog, just to heal myself and pressure life totals. I do think that Witherbloom Apprentice as a 2-drop is still just like decent. At pressuring the life totals of other people when you have certain hands. But the life from the loam loop is kind of wild.
Yeah, because ultimately, again, you're just getting towards breach, or you already have, breach because you might be doing another version of the life from the loam loop. It might just be LED life from the loam with Korvold and no six, and you're doing more of a dredge 3, treating it as more like a grinding station.
Yeah.
Because eventually you'll get to a point where you hit another value piece that's going to trigger into something else, like a Lotus Petal, which is not going to draw you another card. And then you're going to slowly but surely start gaining more material, more cards in your hand, more mana. And then you're just going to be ultimately far ahead. And then you don't have to inherently do that anymore. You would find the 6, and then you're able to just win. So if your Chain of Smog ever got removed, you still can just drain the table out.
Yep. Absolutely. And you did go over something that's really important, Eric, that I want to make sure we pause and talk about. Especially for new players, this gets asked all the time. Why can't we cut life from the loam? The thought process here, and I think the reason why people see this is they see it as like, oh, I don't use my 6 loops very much, so I don't think this is necessary. I think that these players are not utilizing the deck in a sense of all roads lead to breach because it is our breach fuel. Life from Loam in this deck is our grinding station, like you said earlier. It is the way, like our Stitcher supplier. It is the way that we fuel our breach. Eric, why don't you talk about just like anecdotally how a breach line works with Life from the Loam and LED?
So if we have Korvold out, and that's, we typically, obviously you want Korvold out for this specifically. So we're going to say 6 is 86. He's not on the battlefield. That's a restaurant term for people if you've
Yep.
never heard 86
Yeah,
before,
we're
but
out. We're out of 6s.
and basically if you have a Lion's Eye Diamond in play, you can crack your Lion's Eye Diamond to trigger the Korvold draw. You'll discard your hand, and then you'll just opt to replace that with the dredge ability. You'll dredge 3. You'll put the life from loam in your hand, and then now you have 3 cards to exile to recast your Lion's Eye Diamond to repeat that. Now, hopefully by this particular time, you have random cards in your graveyard, Delighted Halfling,
Mhm.
a Spirit Guide that got milled, or just some, just auxiliary things that don't matter towards the end game. You don't need those cards. All you need to is make sure you don't remove your combo pieces, or if you're trying to go for a land's particular win. And that's the beautiful thing about Kyle's list is Kyle can largely ignore any lands thing and just go straight to the Witherbloom stuff. So
Yeah.
he doesn't have to have the lands loop. He has that. And then while he has that, I have Praetor's Grasp, and we basically come to the same thing. We kill our opponents with that line. And
Yeah.
basically you're rinsing, repeating that until you want to maybe find something that makes that loop a little bit easier if you want to. But you're just rinsing, repeating that basically over and over. You're discarding your hand, you're dredging 3, you're exiling 3, you're recasting the Lion's Eye Diamond, making green mana off of it. If you wanted to, you even get to a point where you can probably start casting Life from the Loam if you find the 6, which is great. Then that just makes it all easier and ignores
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But without 6, you're just basically replacing the draw effect with the dredge over and over again. While at that
Yeah.
point, you're actually just getting 3 mana, which is super nice. So,
Yeah. Yeah. With Breach specifically, it ends up being a filter of
yeah.
3 and net 1 mana. And the importance of this is like as long as you have like you said, at least 4 cards in your graveyard, you're able to get to a point with Breach out where you just exile 3 cards. Exile 3 you don't need, exile 3 you don't need, exile 3 you don't need. Every time you're doing that, you're netting 1 mana. And the majority of the time, how I convert, generally speaking, is I'll hit a Ruthless Technomancer because every single time we do that iteration, Korvold gets larger and larger, right? And you Ruthless
Right.
Technomancer, you're a Korvold, make 13, 14 treasures, whatever, recast Korvold, and now you're net 7 cards. And now the filtering becomes even easier because you can continue the loop if you'd like, continue doing that, and you can even, when you recast Korvold, kill Techno, put Techno in the bin, and then recast Techno again to gain a chunk of 20 cards the next time. So Yeah, so that's one aspect of Lifetime Loam that a lot of Corvo players don't really understand is just how pivotal it is with LED, Korvold, and Underworld Breach. So I want to make sure that everybody recognizes that that is the engine for Breach and how important that is.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of what Kyle was saying, I don't think you can play these hybrid turbo variations that we have without either P grasp or Witherbloom Chain of Smog. I think you need at least one Sands lands like line that's going to
Yeah.
win you the game. You have to have a win condition. Typically, that's going to be Sands any of the land loops. And like I said, they're land stacks with a really, if you honestly, the lands package isn't as big as you think it is because a lot of the cards are just happen to be like decent cards on their own. Like
Yeah.
Tireless Provisioner is just a solid card.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Squander Resources is really powerful by itself, in these types of decks.
The amount of times my Tireless Provisioner has been like flesh duped by a Rogbrass player is hilarious because they're like, wow, that's just a good card. I just want that.
That's a good
It's
card.
like this, yeah, that's a good card. He said the thing. But the interesting thing about Witherbloom Chain is like the last note I'll make about it and why I like it so much is just because it is so different than the land style of winning because it is graveyard agnostic specifically. And in my meta, I see a lot of Dathi. I see a lot of endurance, like I mentioned previously. So I just want to have an ability to win the game that is so drastically different than my main way of winning the game, which is through infinite sack loops through the graveyard, right? So I just want them to be different, and I think that you touched on that point as well. Praetor's Grasp is a different way because a lot of times what we're using Praetor's Grasp to grab a win condition from someone else's deck that might be agnostic. And the reason why I personally am off the Praetor's Grasp version is because it is not graveyard agnostic. The majority of time, you can find a Praetor's Grasp win that doesn't require your graveyard, but a lot of times P Grasp wins come from Breach. So if Breach is offline, if graveyards are an offline in general, I like having an out through Witherbloom Chain of Smog that just doesn't care about the graveyard. But that's my pedestal. I'll step off it now.
No, that's completely fair. And then you'll just notice, obviously, our decks are going to be a few cards different, but that's the difference in the pocket metas that you play in,
For sure.
and like with Praetor's Grasp, a lot of times I just use it as Grim Tutor, effectively. I'm
Yeah.
using it to get silence.
Yep.
I don't know how many times I've taken a Pact and Negation with it.
Packed.
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Pact, Silence, Mystic Remora, Smothering Tithe, those types of things. I'm just utilizing it, and I'm not where I'm just like utilizing it and then just forgetting about it. I'm not actively forgetting about it, but I'm just like not trying to like. A lot of people just. I think they think of their win conditions. They just have to only use them for win conditions because we get asked this a lot. Like, how do you win with Praetor's Grasp if there's not a Thassa's Oracle player at the table? And it's like any deck has win cons. If you
Yeah.
do the breach thing, you will have a gajillion mana. This deck, a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, is making infinite mana.
Yeah.
If you can't find a win with P Grasp with infinite mana, access to breach,
Yeah.
I think you just need to touch up on the decks in the format and how they actually win.
100%. Yeah. Because even if you're not, let's say you are in a Sans Thassa's Oracle deck, you are a Breach deck yourself. You can simply P grasp for a brain freeze because to get there, you probably casted a billion spells and cracked your LED and recast your LED, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Brain freeze yourself out completely, P grasp again, grab another brain freeze everybody out. Somebody has a wheel at the table, great, grab the wheel, or Fairy Mastermind, grab the Fairy Mastermind. There's definitely ways that you can find wins. And I do really like that point where sometimes we play, like, don't just hold the P grasp. I think the most powerful aspect of Praetor's Grasp is being able to use it in the early turns when you are not winning, because our deck is so recursion based that you should use that P grasp early. Grab the Pact, grab the Silence. Those are the two cards that I grab the most. And one note as well, I'll make: almost never should you use P grasp to deny your opponents. I think that this is a huge mistake that I see often at the table. I do not think that you should be P grasping someone's Thoracle without the thought of you using Thoracle to win the game, like immediately, right? You should not be trying to P grasp a Magda's Clock of Omens to stop the Magda. All the decks in the format, I'm saying that because I've seen it. all of the decks in the format, the CEDH decks, they're very like you would have to be pretty wild to have one way to win the game in your deck. And even then, you're then one for oneing your card in order to stop the other person. You still got two other opponents. So, note to everyone listening: do not P grasp for denial. Unless everybody's
Oh
agreed
man.
to a draw, I guess. Then I guess you can do it to the person who's not agreeing to draw.
Oh
But
my
that's
gosh.
that's some wild scenarios. But I just want to do that PSA because holy shit, have I seen P grasp misused often?
Yeah, it's just Grim Tutor that just allows you to get an alt win con or any value piece. And people overcomplicate that card so much, as
Mhm.
specifically in the what I've seen in the Korvold Discord. But yeah,
Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to
yeah,
use P
don't be
grasp.
afraid.
Cool. All right. Well, those are the main win cons of our current lists. Let's get into our lesser used win cons. Some of the relics of Korvold's past, probably for listeners at home who don't play Korvold or haven't played Korvold since Dockside, or maybe are new to Korvold completely, might think of when they think of Korvold. First and foremost, being food chain. So, what are your thoughts on food chain right now? How have they changed since last year?
Ristic Study slop meta changed food chain for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, food chain, how it operates in Korvold is vastly different than how it operates in Atali. Atali is the actual, particularly win con in that deck, whether it's quote ending the game when it's repeatable. It effectively is because it's getting the cards off the top.
Yeah.
Korvold doesn't do that. Korvold still has to recast Korvold to draw the card by sacrificing the squee. And for everyone who keeps asking, you just exile Korvold with the draw trigger on the stack so you
Don't
don't
deck
kill
yourself.
yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. And once you get to that point, you actually probably don't need Corval out because you've drawn your entire deck. One thing I did like about Food Chain is that if you did that loop, actually it was really nice because you could just get to 6, draw your whole deck, discard a bunch of lands, the Lotus Petal, win the game that way. With because then you'll have pretty much access to your breach and whatever mana you want. The reason why I don't like Food Chain specifically now, and it does produce some fast wins.
Yeah.
I would say we are a very powerful Orcish Lumberjack deck, and that's something that Korvold could do is be a really fast food chain A plus B, but with the greater, larger tournament format being Ristic clone slop meta, that does not play very well into that. And I would highly, highly suggest Korvold pilots not playing that because we don't have silence, like actual silence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
a little bit different when you have silence or things that can deal with allowing your opponents to draw a bunch of cards. I don't want to draw my opponents a bunch of cards because Beseju, Auto War, those types of things,
Yeah.
even with a docent in play. So, food chain isn't something I would recommend in this current meta.
Yeah. It's also just a target to be countered a lot easier than some of the other combos that we talked about, right? It's unfortunately an enchantment. And a lot of the other combos that we set up, especially like the land sacrifice ones, some of them can be fully creature based, creatures and lands, right? If you have a Sylvan Safekeeper with a Lumra and a Shifting Woodlands or an Aftermath Analyst, like you can do these combos fully creature and land based only. There's a lot of ways to do so. So, yeah, I think I feel really similarly about Food Chain. I don't think it's bad. I think it's probably next up to bat when it comes to some of these combos. If I had to put one in, I think just because we do have an outlet in the command zone, yeah, it's playable. I just don't know if it's correct right now. And you have to play Squee, which sucks. No offense, Squee. I think Squee's a cool card, but it's a bad card.
Yeah, it's good. Squeeze. I don't think Squeeze getting that's a good
Yeah.
card episode.
No, he's not getting an
Uh,
episode, that's for sure.
but just a little pen in that. I would say if you are on, this has nothing to do with lands, but if you're playing the Goblin build, I would play Food Chain probably
Yeah.
just as the ability because that deck's like 38, 40 creatures or something crazy like that. So
Yeah, and the goblin builds are very interesting in Korvold, and they have for listeners at home who may not be aware of these builds, There have been a couple of goblin builds that have like done well in tournaments over the years. Like I remember there being goblin builds like 5 years ago and just being like, oh, that's interesting. Nobody was playing it. Like I haven't met somebody in person who plays it or plays it consistently. At least that version of Korvold. But they kind of pop up here and there. They have really cool synergies because like you get to play stuff like Mog War Marshal and like that with a Skirk Prospector is draws a lot of cards with Korvold, you know. So there's really cool like Goblin Sacrifice synergies with those kinds of decks, and you get to play some weird ass cards. But I just the quality of the cards in themselves are rough, especially on games where you are starved of resources. And Korvold, since we haven't said it yet, is probably one of the most resource hungry decks that you'll find on the market. It
Oh yeah,
needs resources bad. Low mulligans on Korvold are rough to come back from.
they are definitely post ban.
For sure.
Before you could just be like three, two lands and a dockside and be like,
Yeah,
okay,
and be like, oh, I'm in
whatever.
this game. Yeah.
I'm definitely in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So beyond food chain as one of our lesser used combos, another one I wanted to talk about are blood artist effect combos. And this
Oh,
one specifically, oh, here we go, Eric. Dude, Eric, I thought you're kind of a weeb. Don't you love Sephiroth?
I really like
Like
Sephiroth,
Sephiroth, yeah.
but
So blood artist effects in Corvold, the most commonly seen ones, ones that were in our list in this past year, in both of our lists at some point in time, was Warren Soul Trader and Chatterfang combos. And then once in a while, those would bring in a blood artist or a Sephiroth in order to actually drain the table down. Now, as of I think a few months ago is when I cut Warren Chatter, but you had cut it maybe even 6 or 7 months ago from your main list, Eric. It's been a while since we've been on that. I kind of I stayed on it for longer than I think I should have because I think Warren Soul Trader as a card in terms of card quality is really, really high quality. And Chatterfang I have a love-hate relationship with Chatterfang, which is so funny, Eric, because if you go back to our 2025 podcast where we talked about Korvold and Chatterfang, you were mega high on Chatterfang. You were like, dude, this card does everything. And then now a year later, we're in this position where like we are just like, you know what? It's just it isn't as much as we want it to be. So what are your thoughts on like Warren Chatterfang and Blood Artist effects as a non-used win condition in our current list?
yeah. Blood Artist effect. I don't know how Wizards of the Coast. I feel like every time they print a Blood Artist effect, it's like it could just be a little bit better. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I was really hoping for the new Strixhaven set to be a black green blood artist effect and a legendary creature because at that point I'd be like, awesome, I can get it with Green Sun Zenith, I can get it with Summoner's Pact. Hopefully it has
Yeah.
like some nice upside. No, it's just a common frog that gains life, something. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, here we go. The reason why I don't think we specifically need those types of cards is because we have Mayhem Devil. And then we're opting for a different alt win line, whether that's Witherbloom, Chain of Smog, or Praetor's Grasp. I think those pretty much cover the basis. And when you're doing the Warren Soul Trader Chatterfang stuff, I don't actually think you need to add a Blood Artist effect to win the game because we
Agreed.
see those cards in other decks, like whether that's Kenrith. I know Kenrith utilizes it.
Kenrith can
Because
heal
Kenrith,
themselves though, and then it is actually
right,
infinite. They don't need a blood artist effect. Yeah.
correct. We see it there, but we also see it in like Scion of the Ur Dragon because they just win with Thassa's Oracle. You just win with, Witherbloom Chain of Smog. Same thing. It's in
Yeah.
terms of what it's trying to accomplish in the end state. Also, I feel like the texture of the games were quite different when we were playing those last year. I played against a lot of Rogthras. That's when Rogthras was like really the hotness on the street.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I am undefeated in tournament play against Rogthras.
Hey, that's nice.
And anytime I've played against Rogthras in tournament, I have won that match. So
Nice. There you go.
I felt like I could always outvalue them. And because the games also weren't ending immediately, or it's tough because new cards got printed that facilitated like Chatterfang could make material as long as something else was making material.
And that was really the straw that broke the camel's back for me taking out Warren Chatterfang. I do agree with you 100%. There's no reason to play Blood Artist effects if you're playing Warren Chatterfang in your Korvold list. And I do think it's still a viable strategy because effectively using however many life you have to make that many treasures, it's majority of the time it's like make 25 mana, draw 50 cards. And if you can't win with that, then I don't know what you're doing. So like
Yeah.
that is definitely a very strong strategy. But the fact that I cut Black Market Connections was the actual reason that I ultimately ended up cutting Warren Soul Trader Chatterfang because a lot of the games where I was playing Black Market Connections turn one or turn two into like a turn two Chatterfang, those games felt great because I could control the board because I was pumping out tokens every single second. But the second that I cut Black Market Connections, I kind of realized like, hey, my three drops are way oversaturated, and these are the ones that I tutor for the least. So that led me to cutting those two cards specifically.
Yeah, and I mean, Warren still has a really powerful synergy with something like OBM,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's just a good card on its own. And I feel like, though, when in lands, those cards feel so demanding. For whatever reason, you would think that Warren would just fit right in and just be gobbling up like, Dryad Arbors and
mm-hmm.
tokens. And I do believe there is a build of lands with those, but I think it pulls you into playing Springheart and Tuco style decks
Yep,
and
one hundred
maximizing
percent
that a
agree.
little bit more. Again, really powerful. You make a land, make a bug, as if you're not, trying to bestow it on anything, and then you get to eat it with the Warren. That's a pretty massive target on your back. But I don't know what it is. I can't quantify this, but I feel like because they're just two slots, but they demand the deck's attention so much if that's the route you're going. And I feel like it takes away from the overall strategy of the lands route.
Yeah,
And where the deck's at right now feels it flows a lot smoother without them in the list.
yeah. And a lot of times I think it's because of the play pattern of our lists where on turn two, we're getting a three drop on a naked board. That happens so often, right? Where we have nothing else on the board, but we have the ability to deploy a three drop. Right now, those three drops are Nissa or Tireless Provisioner, Six or Cabbage Man, right? Those are
Correct.
effectively the main value ones. I'm not going to count Necropotence because that's a fringe case where you have to effectively have perfect black pips to get that, and it's a lot more common that you get like two colorless and the green. I digress. Um, a naked board with all of those previously mentioned cards, I feel way more confident than a naked board and a Warren Soul Trader or a naked board and a Chatterfang, right? They are combo pieces, not really value pieces, and that can be really really difficult and in a sense where like you feel like, man, I just need more. Like I'm in this resource hungry deck and I'm deploying something that's demanding even more resources. That's ultimately why I ended up making the cut, is because if I only have so much that I can spend my resources on, I'm going to spend it early on the things that are going to gain me more resources and net me more mana, whether it's mana or foods or whatever, or cards in my bin if I'm six, versus something that I'm going to deploy and then I'm going to need to have. It's effectively a dependent versus something that's independent, right? So that's my thought process.
I couldn't agree with that more. Kyle mentioned all those cards, and they all do something. They all provide mana, material, or some combination of both. Unfortunately, those other ones don't without some type of precursor setup. And then, like for example, I'm on a Vondu Bush Razor. Same thing. It
Mm-hmm.
if I get to untap with that, I at least get to jumpstart it jumpstarts its own engine.
Yeah,
It allows to self perpetuate, so they don't do that. And I think both being three drops is their biggest downfall. Like if Chatterfang was like a two drop, or
yeah,
if it was a two drop and didn't, it doesn't even have to have the crazy stats. It just needed to be a combo piece with Warren, but it'd be a little bit different because then it would filter in because the deck is so. I mean, it could have 9 to 12 three drops realistically. Like
yeah,
it doesn't mean it's effective, but the colors of Jund just allow those types of things because we're not playing. There's certain powerful cards we're not even playing in the three drop slot that is played in a lot of decks. Something like Professional Facebreaker. We're not even
yeah,
playing that, and it makes treasures.
yeah. And Facebreaker is in terms of card quality, is a very, very high quality card. So it's a really tough scenario to be in, and we'll kind of talk about it a lot. But generally speaking, Eric and I, when we look at a Korvold list, maybe one that's doing well or one that isn't doing well, will look at that 3-drop slot, right? And not counting like SWAT and Dosen and the spirit guides, it's like you want to be on maximum, what would you say? Like 8 3-drops? I think if I look at my list right now, Tireless Provisioner, Cabbage Man, 6, Nissa, Necropotence, Mayhem Devil, Eldritch Evolution, which is not. So that's 6 creatures that I'm deploying for like value at the 3-drop slot. And I feel like that's a lot. Once in a while, you'll see a list that pops up where the player has like 10 or 11 3-drops. And it's just so brutal when you are storming through a turn on a knife's edge with your mana and you just draw 3-drop after 3-drop after 3-drop that you cannot deploy.
Yeah, especially when those 3-drops don't immediately add mana to the board state.
Yeah.
And then people depower their ad nauseum, and then they literally go, "Man, I have a really hard time converting my ad nauseums." Well, let me look at your deck list. Oh, it's because you have 15 3-drops in your deck.
Yeah, those 3-drops are all good. It's like, yes, you got to pick your poison.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little
Oh,
bit different. When you look at like Rockside, their 3-drops either draw them more cards or win the game. So
yeah.
in Korvold, it better be like those types of things. It better be something that generates mana or material or gets you ahead on the board some way.
Great. All right. Those are kind of the only ones that I want to talk about that are like fringe win conditions that we aren't playing. You can technically play like things like Dualcaster Mage, Twin Flame in these kinds of lists, but we don't really see that super often. I do think that combo specifically is nice because it has the same thing that Witherbloom Chainasmog has, which is a graveyard agnostic win. So I give it a benefit there, but at the same time, it's just really tough. If we had more things that we wanted to twin flame, I think it could be viable. But that combo specifically runs into a weird scenario where if you look at our lists and you look at our pips, they're like all Golgari. We have like barely any red pips in our list. So it's pretty rough to want to switch over to a main win line that requires 3 red pips. What are your thoughts, Eric? Just like a quick tidbit on DCM combos.
Yeah. Like I would love the ability to run DCM if it didn't compete with it's the mana base. It competes so much with the mana base. When you
Yeah.
look at it, we're running like Yavimaya, Urborg, those types of things. Our basic lands are forest swamp with and maybe you could do a slight alteration, and maybe we'll get to a point to where they if they print enough red cards, there might be kind of a switch. But then again, it's going to be really hard to pull me off Cradle being a Greenstone Zenith Nature's Rhythm deck. So
Yes, absolutely.
there's the tension.
Yeah, there's the tension, and also another aspect of it. I'm specifically on Allosaurus Shepherd, so my wins feel a lot better, and my payoffs feel a lot better if they're green instead of red. Yeah, okay. Let's move into the big 2 win cons that are kind of win cons, but not win cons that we haven't talked about yet, which is Necro and Nas. So let's talk Necropotence first, because I just slotted in Necropotence a couple months ago, like I was saying. I had been so anti Necropotence in my list for almost a year. Eric, why don't you start off with your thoughts on Necropotence, and then we'll kind of get into what ultimately made my decision.
Beside from Rhystic Study, it's probably the most powerful card, singular card in the game. It just has the ability for the deck to mull really low. And we talked about this in the last episode. That's why I feel comfortable knowing that I always have the ability to go land writ necro or land cabal ritual necro or something of that variety of like 2 mana sources, a burn of paradise into a necropotence. Doesn't mean that that's going to be the game plan, but it has that ability. A lot of people talk about how many do I dig for? How much do I send it into? Necropotence is also a really interesting politic tool because
Mm-hmm.
people will get immediately scared of it in any deck. But in our deck, I would be like, listen, I kept a hand. Let's say I kept a 7. I went 1, 2. I have 5 cards in hand. I played a land. I cast the necro. I'm down to 4. It's like I'll just necro up to 7. I'll put 3 aside.
Yeah.
Because now I'm not really scary. Now I'm not really doing anything like the Rhystic players, or I might go up, take 4, whatever that may be within that nuance of what my hand looks like versus what I'm trying to get to. Because in reality, what I'm trying to do is just dig to the emergent zone
Mm-hmm.
without being the quote threat.
Yeah.
I'm just going to refill my hand. And then I get provisions if someone goes, well, I'll let you have it if you only go up to 5 or whatever that may be. Just treat it like a necro dominance, that type of thing. And then it has the
Yes.
ability to, very anecdote, I will have the E zone in hand already. And then
Mhm.
that allows me to politic even more to allow me to have it. Like, look, I only take 2. If I get to untap, then I'm going to be able to play, Necro forever how much I want to, play the emergent zone, go from there, that type of
Yeah.
stuff. Um, it has this really powerful ability that's the triggers ability. Everyone's super scared of it because they're scared. I think when we were in a heavy wheels meta playing
Mhm.
Lance, I could understand, worrying about Necro getting wheeled with a full hand and then your cards get just completely exiled. We're not really into that super heavy meta anymore. And it still happens. It's going to
Yeah.
happen. We're playing a super powerful format, but it just gives you that flexibility to just refresh your hand, draw as many, or quote, put as many cards in your hand as you need, or provide that emergent zone big burst win. But the key to Necro is that trigger. I'm telling you, it allows you to get wins that you typically wouldn't be able to get without the Necropotence.
Yeah. Necro is, I don't deny, probably the second most powerful card in the format, second or third. I think that like Breach, Ristic Study, Necropotence, those are my picks, right?
Yeah.
And I eventually decided to go up Necropotence as a way to get around silence. That was like my original reasoning. And for the listeners at home who may not know, Necropotence has this really cool thing that Eric was talking about, where let's say you get silenced and you have a Necropotence active and you have an E zone on your board. You're able to jam Necropotence for 30, however many you need to go. And if you have mana available, you're able to then go to your end step, no effects at end step, you're still silenced, go to cleanup, and then discard down to a sculpted 7. Hopefully, you have win in hand through that, whether it's Blue Room, Chain of Smog, whatever. The second that you discard to 7, there are going to be a bunch of Necro triggers put onto the stack, one for each card that you have discarded in order to exile them. At that point in time, since you're in your discard step, until end of turn effects have fallen off, so silence is no longer happening, you can respond to those Necro triggers, crack your emergent zone, cast your breach, go to town. And one of the cool things about your descriptor of Necropotence being just like a straight up Where's Waldo of finding emergent zone, that's one of the reasons why I was off it for the longest time, right? Because a lot of Necro lists have Born Upon the Wind, they have Valley Flood Color, they have other ways that they can convert their Necro. We have one, and that sucks. And when I say convert their Necro, I mean convert a giant Necro push, right? We have one, I guess I could say we have 1.5 because Final Fortune exists. So really, when you're doing this huge push with Necro, you either have to have Emergent Zone like already deployed, you have to have hit a crop rotation in your giant chunk, but not Emergent Zone, so that you can crop rot into Emergent Zone, or you have to have 2 red mana or the ability to make 2 red mana at instant speed so that you can cast the Final Fortune, go into another turn with a Sculpted 7. Those are your only ways of winning through a massive Necro push. And because I felt like other decks did it better, quote unquote, I was afraid of doing it. What are your thoughts on that, Eric?
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say, and unfortunately, because obviously the blue stuff has flash, as it always does.
Yes.
Green, we do get some really neat ways to take advantage of a big Necropotence. Cross and Wayfair, probably
That's a good
anytime
card.
I see, it's a very good card. Anytime I see a lands list not on it, I go, why are you playing land? Why are you even
Yeah,
playing lands?
it's so good. Yeah.
It's one of the most powerful cards in a lot of decks like Menstrual and then a deck like Korvold, but obviously the massive benefits of Korvold getting to draw a card, which is wildly, I don't know how many times I'm like, I'm dead on board. I'm going to just crack my naked Croson Wafer and I hit a fetch land and I'm like,
We're so
well,
up.
I just won.
Yeah. Oh, now I put into play this fetch land and I have a tireless provisioner out. Okay. I make 3 mana, draw 3 cards. Here we go. Now we're cooking.
We're cooking. But yes, that would be one of them is the ability to have a package of Summoner's Pact and Croson Wayfair. So that allows us to have more access to that emergent zone line. Now we have to play face up, which
I
is
was gonna say,
unfortunate.
yeah, you
Unless we're
have to.
playing savage, unless you play savage
Savage
summoning.
Summoning. Also, that's a good card staple. I unironically think about that card often. And at the end of this, I'm going to pull random cards from my 140 card sideboard here that I have in this box next to me just to get your lightning round take on it because I think it'll be funny. But I think about that card
Absolutely.
often, dude, solely for that purpose. Just because it's just, we're so tunneled on getting Emergent Zone specifically, and it can be really tough because a lot of times you get put in these scenarios too where like you end up having to gamble. And I'm not sure how often that happens for you, but like sometimes you just have to push with Necro because you're dead on board the next turn and you're jamming 28 into your Necro and praying you hit Crop Rot, but not E Zone.
Right.
And then you look at all 28 cards and look what's in your hand, Emergent Zone. And you're like, damn it. All right, guess I can't convert, you know? It's a huge gamble and it sucks when you're in those scenarios. So I was off it for a very, very long time. But ultimately, after getting my ass handed to me by so many turn two Necros on farm, I realized, hey, card pretty good at just filling your hand up.
Yep.
We'll worry about all the other stuff later. I'll just get a full hand. Sure, I take that deal.
And what I think made Necro better in this deck specifically was the Cabbage Merchant,
Oh
because
yeah.
the Cabbage Merchant makes your Final Fortune line way better. Because
Yes.
now, when you Final Fortune and you have a Cabbage Merchant and you have 4 plus X foods on the battlefield, you feel more comfortable be able to convert that Necro because now you're getting to go a little bit deeper. You have those extra permanent mana sources. We're not using treasures.
Yeah.
We're getting to utilize permanent mana sources. So that supports, it's not really like a package. I just think it supports the Final Fortune Necro line a lot more, is having something powerful like the Cabbage Merchant along with that, because it's permanent mana sources that you get to untap with. The only other thing I would add to the Necro being in the green is that when you go to discard, as Kyle mentioned, those are triggers. If you have a Woodlands on the battlefield or you have an Aftermath Analyst in play, you might be able just to win right there,
You could.
because
Absolutely.
you can put those triggers on the stack and then you can activate whichever one you have. And then you can just basically go off at that point as well. That's something that I think some of the Korvold pilots might fear, is that ability to attempt to. I would honestly get to put myself in that board state and just play test, be like, how do I win from here? Do I have that ability? Do I have that? Can I draw? What am I drawing to be able to get into the emergent? So what if I draw the emergent zone first? Do I have a way to put it back into the graveyard to Noxious Survival it on top? Or can I crop rotation, draw trigger on the stack, do this, draw a card, crop rotation still in the stack, Noxious Survival, the E zone back on top of the deck to now get it off of the crop rot? See,
Yeah.
there's ways to do this.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, that's just something that I would practice as a Korvold pilot, putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations. So now you know whether you can or cannot do that, if your deck has the tools and the means to do that.
Absolutely. And that's some of the high level sequencing stuff that you're going to find playing Necro in a deck that has to get creative because we don't have the Valley Flood Caller. We don't have the Born. So we have to get creative with it. So you wouldn't assume automatically that Noxus Revival could be the key to you converting your Necro, but here we are, you know? And the great part about it is like the downside of Necropotence when you don't have Emergent Zone is that you cannot do your Underworld Breach lines with LED because you're going to discard everything. They're all going to get exiled. You cannot respond to the triggers to recast your LED because you don't have instant speed. So without having instant speed, you are cooked. You have to then potentially pivot to something that I play, and I don't believe you're on it. Are you on Reverent Silence, Eric?
I am not currently. And I'm going to tell you, this is going to be
Yeah,
completely ridiculous. It's because I don't have a Japanese foil one yet.
dude. But that is another way that you can handle your Necropotence. Like the downside of Necropotence as a Corvold player is you can play either a Nature's Claim. I'm personally on Reverent Silence because it's free. Or like a Back to Nature and just simply kill your own Necropotence. So then you can then go for a Breach line, which happens a decent amount. It's not often, but it can be really relevant.
Another card I would throw out there for people if you're not on one of the enchantment removals, would be something like Torch the Tower, because somebody always wants more spot removal. It's basically going to be a lightning bolt for a creature. You get a scry effect, and you can sacrifice it as part of the addition to the cost. So even if they counter your Torch to the Tower, your Necropotent's gone.
Yeah, it's so funny. I remember you sending me Torch the Tower on a random day and being like, dude, this is gas. This is what we need to get rid of our necropotents. I
I
remember you
played
being
it in the
so high
double
on that
Necro
card,
build.
dude. You were so high on that card.
And then I realized once you just play Mayhem Devil and a little bit more, once Talon Gates came out, you're just kind of like, I don't need that much removal.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Okay, let's transition. That was great information on necropotents. Let's transition to the next big dog on the block. That's ad nauseum. Eric, how often are you winning with ad nauseum in your current list?
I would say slightly less than it's about, let me look at my 46% right now. I'm winning with ad nauseum.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's a pretty good amount. I think that I'm probably in a similar range. If I had a ballpark guess, I was going to say like 30 to 40% of the time. But yeah, I do think that like at the end of the day, the list is a pure ad nauseum list still. If you have the ability to rip one of these either on the play, like seat one or seat two, turn three, you're likely able to convert. But if you're in a scenario where you have to wait until you're doing a late Nas before your turn, that's also a totally viable strategy. I think looking at my build right now, my average mana value with lands is 1.24. My ad nauseum mana value is 1.2, aka if you don't count Nas itself, it goes down to 1.2. What is your list at right now, Eric? I think you're in a
One
very similar range.
1.14.
Sheesh, even lower than me. But yeah, ad nauseum, incredibly powerful card. I think that something to note, just because this comes up a lot in conversation in the Discord, if you're having trouble converting with ad nauseum, one of the most important aspects of it that I think of is making sure that the goal of your Nas is to ultimately get to breach, because I can't remember the last time I ad nauseamed and didn't go for breach and won. I don't think that that almost ever happens. So sometimes I think maybe that the conversion aspect of ad nauseum, sometimes you do just get unlucky. And if you've already taken a lot of damage, sure, you can get into a position where you hit your Lumira, your Culling Ritual, and an Eldritch Evolution or something like that, and then all of a sudden you're chunked and you just don't have the cards that you need. But the majority of the time, the goal is to just ad nauseum with at least one mana available, at least one, and then you just need to hit any free mana source in your breach, and you're kind of off to the races. That's kind of my thought process. If you're nosing after you've already played your land for turn in your main phase with no additional mana available in these builds, the likelihood of you converting is incredibly low. Not zero, but I just think it's sub like 20%. You have to hit your Lotus Petal, your Chrome Mox, your Mox Diamond, Simian Spirit Guide, Elvish Spirit Guide, and Breach to get to where you need to go. And it's tough for sure. I definitely think that the conversion rate jumps drastically if you have one extra mana available. Eric, what are your thoughts on ad nauseum, when to cast it, conversion rates of it, yada, yada, yada?
Well, what I like about these decks is I'm just going to remove the whole land looping stuff out. So we're just going to talk about the landfall creatures, stuff like Lotus Cobra, Nissa, Talish Provisioner. Specifically, Lotus Cobra. Lotus Cobra allows the deck to be extremely explosive. And when people, I don't know what happened recently. Permission to speak freely, Captain.
Yes, permission accepted. Yes.
Okay, so there's this, and I think it's because people haven't really played these versions enough to understand that. And it's really, honestly, basic mathematics when you look at it. But when I hear that the deck's not fast, I go, what's faster than a turn one? And without, when I'm not talking about like broken Rogside draws or stuff like
Yeah.
that, I'm talking about just pure like one drop, two drop, go. What's faster than Orcish Lumberjack into Cobra plus fetch land? I mean, that is a lot of mana on turn two. A
Yeah.
lot. And heaven forbid, turn 3, right? So the explosivity is there. The quote fastness that you're looking for, it's there. So you really have the ability to truly, actually, on turn 3, be able to, like, literally, if you wanted to, go into like Dose and Nas, potentially have and have mana left over. Like the deck
Oh, for sure.
has that ability. I think it's one of the better explosive ad nauseum decks that I've played. Now, in terms of converting past Nas on a low thing, on a low resource, not as much because we don't have mana crit, right? We're
Yep.
not a Mox Opal,
Yep.
those types of things. But what we do have are exploration brood ship. We have the landfall creatures. We have that ability. We're a crop rotation. If one of these creatures are in play, we have Croson Wayfarer. Again, also like that. I mean, we
Yeah.
have Gaia's Cradle too. You only need 2 creatures in play if you're doing this. So if it's around turns 2 to 3 and you get to like play a Wayfarer into a Cradle, now you have a landfall trigger. Now you make a mana. Now you tap your Cradle for your 2 other creatures that you have in play. Whatever that looks like, you have that ability. You just maybe need to put a little bit more thought into your game plan versus just going, well, it's not fast enough. I mean, it generates mana like crazy.
Yeah.
So, and that's not to mention just a Cabbage Merchant draw. Like, we're not even talking about like turn 2, turn 1 Cabbage Merchant into untap Nas plus protection or something like that. It just have that ability.
Yeah, I think that when you have those Lotus Cobras slash Tyler's Conversioner slash Nissa, just makes the conversion. If you have that on your board with the Nas, the conversion rate is just through the roof, right? Because all you have to do is hit Summoner's Pact or Elvish Spirit Guide, and you're off to the races. Because you run multiple exploration effects plus Croson Wayfarer, like the ability to make 3 mana post Nas, you're golden. If you can't convert with 3 mana and a full grip of cards from Nas, you're doing something wrong. So maybe goldfish a little bit more.
Yeah. Also, we have, a lot, like how I typically end up converting post Nas a lot of times to get to the breach or the breach man or whatever that looks like is 6+ Lotus Petal.
Yep, absolutely. That's so nice. That is like one of the easiest way to convert a Nas because when you Nas, our list run both 32 lands, right?
Correct.
I joke about it when people ask about land packages. I'm like, the biggest part of the land package is the fact that you have to play lands. Other lists are playing 25 lands. Well, we're playing 32. So 7 of the land package is lands themselves. But what that means is that if you have a 6 on your battlefield and you have a Lotus Petal, like you just win because you're going to have 7, 8 lands in your Nas pile that you just convert. Every single land is now mana. So it just makes things just so much easier.
Yeah, and then you'll get to a point if you can put a Korvold out if you want to, and then you just continue on with your Lotus Pedaling. Now you're drawing additional cards. You're going to see more lands, and then, oh, darn, I hit Life from the Loam. Now I just have it. Like,
Yep.
and that's also to throw back to the Necropotence. If you are EZOing in your end step and you're discarding your lands, put that Necro trigger on the stack, discard another land, replay your Lotus Petal. Keep those triggers on the stack. That's another way to convert at instant speed. If you have the E zone post Necro is going to be 6 plus that. So 6+ Lotus Petal or 6+ Life from the Loam LED if you wanted to keep those protected as well.
Yeah. Another note to make, since we're talking about this and we didn't explicitly mention it in the end step, and I would be very sad if somebody messed this up. If you have Necro E zone and your plan is to win in discard step, do not crack E zone before your discard step because it will fall off at the same time silences would fall off in your discard. So you have to do it in your discard step specifically.
Yeah.
PSA, please do not preemptively E zone.
Yeah, because those triggers will be on the stack, so those cards will not be exiled immediately. Just have faith in your deck's power level. And I think that's actually about the ad nauseum thing is the deck's power level is like, again, we're basically on every ritual too, right?
Yep.
Like we're not on like something like Infernal Plunge or yeah.
Not Infernal Plunge, not Mind Goblin. I refuse to play that card because I'm not going to, I can't be asked for sticker sheets. And then not like the Pyretic Ritual, Seething Song. We're not on the big red rituals, that's for sure.
Yeah. So that's just, I mean, we're still on all of the same Jun Turbo Nas package.
Yeah.
Like again, I think people it's because the land package is so powerful in the deck. I think people get so swept up in it's a lands deck and it's a lands deck masquerading around it's really a turbo necro Nas deck, and that's what it is. It's just facilitating its resources in a slightly different manner.
And the cool thing about Necro and Nas as well is like they are commander agnostic as well. Like, don't get me wrong. I love a good game where I get to deploy a Korvold when I have a ton of resources, draw a bunch of cards, win through the Korvold Storm engine. Love it. That being said, a lot of the wins that I collect are not using Korvold at all. And you can definitely get there without using Korvold at all through Nas and Necro. So it's just another way of just being able to have redundancy in the ways that you're winning the game. And to be clear, if my decision making in my early mulligans are cast an early Korvold versus cast an early Necro or Nas, I'm taking the Necro and Nas all day, every day. So that's something that I think
Yes.
maybe the newer Korvold pilots might not understand. They might think to themselves like, oh, I might not go for that because that might get countered. And then I'm not gonna, I'd rather just take this quote unquote safe route and go for my Korvold. No, you're a turbo deck. What are you doing? Go for the way to win the game, unless it is explicit knowledge that you have your opponent showed you the counterspell, sure, go for the safe route, go for Korvold. If you don't have explicit knowledge that you are going to get stopped, do not be afraid to rip the early Nas or Necro. Try to win the game. That's what your deck is built to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and sometimes like it works to your benefit. Like if I deploy a necro, it gets countered, whatever. All right, then I just get to play with six. Now I just buy my necro back. Another powerful little
Yeah.
niche interaction is that six just buys back your necro like crazy, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, 100%. Or we have cards like Noxious Revel that we mentioned earlier. Your Nas gets countered. Cool. Noxious Revival the Nas to the top of your library. Go again next turn. It's like we have so much to work with when it comes to recursion. You should not be afraid of losing these things. Even if they get exiled, they get exiled. What are you going to do, right? Your EV of winning the CEDH game is 25% the second you sit down at the table. Give yourself a chance to win. That's what I'll depart on everybody before we get into the next step here. Any other notes on Nas or Necro before we switch it up and go to a different subject matter completely?
I think it's pretty unanimous. Those are good cards.
Those are good cards. I won't be doing
Those are
podcasts on
great
those
cards.
anytime soon. All right. Well, let's move into protection and interaction. So this is going to be an interesting topic. So I might mix this up. Instead of going card by card here, I'm going to present you our Sage Korvold Gandalf Master with a dilemma that I've been having a lot, and I've been talking to Jorge about this. I feel like my list currently has too many protection pieces, which kind of sounds wild for a deck that historically has had trouble finding good high quality protection, right? So one of these reasons why is that I'm running three creatures, Allosaur Shepherd, Dosan, and Hexing Squelcher, that all provide similar but different levels of protection on a creature body, right? And then I also run Vexing Bobble. So that's kind of the protection I'm at. I do not run Veil of Summer currently, which is there's good and bad things about that right now. This was the most recent thing that I've done in my testing, and I think I'm gonna go back to it. I'm not 100% sold on it being out of the list, but I'm also running the Reb and Pyroblast, and then LQR as a creature protection piece. So that's kind of my protection suite right now. I did notice that you specifically are on Redirect Lightning and Veil of Summer and are not on Allosaurus Shepherd or Legolas's Quick Reflexes. So our packages are the same number of cards of protection, but you have some different choices. So what are your thoughts on the protection suite of Korvold right now? Do you feel like it's too much? Do you think like you're at the sweet spot? What are your thoughts?
I never thought I would say this because for the longest time, the deck's been starving for something to replace Autumn's Veil.
Yeah, I remember
and,
those days, dude.
I still think Autumn's Veil is a fine card in certain lists.
It's
Like if
all
you see
right.
like yeah, if I was running like a Storm Killing Artist style Spell Slingers list,
Yeah,
I would probably play that card because it just you can proactively cast it, trigger your SKA,
yeah,
and basically can't drip off of that. I think for me, the flex slot would be around the redirect lightning range. And I think That right there could be LQR, redirect lightning. I think it could be even another removal piece.
Mhm.
If you, for whatever reason, are struggling with silence effects still, I think it could be something like To Bolt's Trickery
Oh, I knew you were gonna say that. My heart
in that
hurts. Oh,
in that slot. It could be whatever you feel comfortable with, because I don't think it makes or break what we do. But what I like about redirect lightning is in the games that I'm not nosing or necroing, where I am more so trying to start off with a technomancer, those are protecting squander resources. That's the kind of card I like to see. I'll be honest with you, and this is gonna might sound a little crazy. I'm beginning to like it a little bit more than deflecting SWAT
no, I think that's legit. Yeah.
because I'm going for more Sans Korvold wins because the deck can do that.
Yeah.
And it just has that flexibility. And then it also, they cost the same if you're not. Now, obviously, deflecting SWAT is very powerful.
Yeah.
The downside to the redirect lightning specifically is the inability to stop multiple the mind break trap stuff,
Yes.
or something like right now Firestorm that we're seeing a lot of.
Yeah. Things that have a ton of different targets.
Correct. I think it could be any of those types of cards. If you feel like you need that additional protection for your creatures, I think LQR is a great card. It would actually be very good in my list, being able to untap something like, obviously we both play Orcish Lumberjack, but even a Vondu Bushraiser is really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Just that ability to protect is really nice. And also protection piece in terms, and I'm assuming you're just specifically talking about the stack. We also have Sylvan Safekeeper for on the ground play as well,
Yeah.
which is really nice.
I mean, I agree with all the points that you made. I think that the biggest thing for me has been that's taking me off of redirect lightning is the mind break trap style cards or cards that target a bunch of different things. Just because MBT is one of those cards that is it's very potent against our list, especially when we're on like Allosaur Shepherd, Hexing Squelcher type things where we feel protected, but we're not actually protected from it. So that's kind of been the reasoning of why I have been off it. Do you think it's wild that I'm off Veil of Summer right now?
Um, it just depends. Are you like, I play against a lot of Orcish Bowmaster, and that card just straight up, you just can largely you just ignore Orcish Bowmaster with that card. That's another card that when people talk about like worrying about removing Orcish Bowmaster, you can just play Veil of Summer, and the Veil of Summer is gonna you're gonna draw the card upon resolution, so they can't OBM you or any of your stuff at that point. I don't think it's wild. I think it's, if you don't challenge the status quo, you'll never know. It's not about being right or wrong. It's
Mhm.
about getting to what's right.
Yeah.
And what's right for you might be not what's right for me, or vice versa. But in reality, if you never know, you never try it. Like, what if you do? What if you're like, actually, we don't need Veil at all? That's a free slot.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason why I've been thinking about Veil more is like a lot of times we make changes to our list a lot. Listeners at home, Eric and I make a lot of changes. I have two physical lists of Korvold. I have my main like tournament list that's in my That's a Good Card sleeves. Quick promo. Shout out That's Good Card sleeves. You can buy them on the Dragon Shield store. Tag C5 at checkout. And then I have like a purple list, is what I call it, which is like my complete testing Korvold list. So the craziness that I want to try, whether it's like a 40 creature build or a super treasure storm build, whatever I want to do, I do it on that list. So something I've been thinking about in my testing is when I cut a card in my testing list, sometimes you immediately like you're thinking to yourself, like, man, I missed that card. And then other times you think to yourself, I don't miss it at all. Never once have I thought about that, right? With Warren Soul Trader Chatterfang, haven't missed them. Haven't missed them at all. I haven't been to a scenario where I've thought to myself, I need these cards back in my deck, or I wish I had these cards in my deck. With Veil, I have had those thoughts. And one of the reasons why is because Veil has this cool ability of being able to replace itself. And in storm turns, that feels really good. It doesn't feel like it's a completely dead card. Whereas, like, sometimes when I'm already protected, another card like a Pyroblast could feel dead and I can't replace it into anything else. Does that make sense? So I think that's like the biggest value of Veil, and like why, like, effectively turning a card that would generally be dead into a storm replacement card, right? And that thought process is also another reason why I've been considering cutting. This is going to be, I'm going to get so much shit for this, Eric. Okay. In my Discord community, there's a good group of people who joke that I got mad at Sam from the Howling Salt Line for telling him that he's crazy for not running Pyroblast in his Marath list. And recently, I don't know if it's a devil on my shoulder situation or what, I've been looking at Pyroblast like, is this a cuttable card for Veil of Summer in my current build? Because Pyroblast can be dead, but Veil of Summer, replaces itself. And then I snap back into reality. And then I decide not to do that because Pyroblast kills Ristic. But that is something I had thought about. And before this, I had never even once thought about cutting a Pyroblast before. But after cutting Veil Summer, which I thought was an quote unquote uncuttable card, it kind of has really switched my mindset of looking at the list and thinking to myself, like, is any card really uncuttable? I don't know.
Outside of the dual lands and the fetch
Yeah,
lands.
that's true.
Breach. Now,
Yeah, and Breach, yeah.
you got to challenge it, right? Like without getting too much like back in the Stone Age of Korvold, it was really hard to kind of challenge the status quo. You had like three main decks, and it's either you play Food Chain or Treasure Storm or like Demon Chain, and no other decks could,
Yeah.
do well or anything like that. And then Love and Behold, it's like, but what if you actually ran good cards?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I just think that you have to challenge it, and that's where the evolution comes from. And that's, I think, why I like the Japanese deck building philosophy. And I don't even necessarily think the choices they make are right. It's not
Yeah.
about, again, it's not
Yeah.
about being right or wrong. It's about getting to the right place and challenge yourself going, okay, what happens if I don't play Veil? I'll give you a great example. I played a tournament. I thought my deck list was actually extremely good. I had basically a turn 3 win on the stack, no later than a turn 4 win every match but one. I'm mulled down to like 4, and I could have won that on like a turn 4, turn 5. Had my opponent not let a Gwenum hit.
Yeah. Oopsie.
Oh, I had the tiller engine out as well, and they oppoed my fetch land. I go, but that's how I stopped the Gwenum. I tapped the Gwenum. But anyways, they just decided to lose the game instead. Anyways, and I didn't play ad nauseum. It was 100% incorrect to not play ad nauseum, because ad nauseum, again, is that card that I could just literally oops into the Nas and allow me to have a super fast win.
Yeah.
And when I cut Nas, I literally felt my deck was less powerful without ad nauseum. And I go, this deck feels awful. Because again, we don't have the blue backup. I'm not sitting behind Ristic, and I'm not trading it for another powerful card like Commandeer. We don't have a Commandeer,
No.
like effect that just is a game warping counterspell that just steals a Necro or a Nas on the stack,
Yeah.
But it's good to challenge those things. I mean, I think if you were like, and as we know, Pyroblast just not only does it stop the counter spells, the Ristics, all that stuff, it just kills, Consecrated Sphinx for 1 red.
It's killed a lot of Kinnons, let me tell you. Let me tell
Absolutely.
you. Yeah. Just pop that Kinnon before it's a problem. And the benefit of like the Reb and Pyro stuff too is that like if it does end up getting like misdirected or anything, like it's not going to hurt you at all, right? So it's a one-sided effect. It's like it's not going to hurt your deck at all, and that's a great feeling. It's almost more protected when you're trying to use it because of that fact. But great little thought experiment there. I still think I'm in a weird spot. I know a lot of people go back and forth on Dosen specifically. I think Dosen is the best protection piece that we have personally. So when people hate Dosen, sure, it can be a dead card. I also think it is the key to winning a lot of games for me, is being just under Dosen in general. So I don't think I would cut Dosen anytime soon. I think the things that I look at are like LQR, Bobble, and even Squelcher, man, because sometimes your Squelcher gets copied and it just feels awful. So that's kind of where I'm at with my protection suite. Is there anything you wanted to highlight in protection in general?
One thing I really like about Squelcher specifically, I guess it's more akin to my list, is because I'm on a Vondu Bush Razor, and then
Yeah.
on that turn I can go for it. I can, activate the Vondu, make the 2 red, and then just play the Squelcher off of it, and then go from there. I do like Squelcher and Veil, obviously,
Mhm.
their interaction with Bobble because it allows you to still cast your zeros because your
Yep.
stuff can't be countered.
Yep.
Again, I think Bobble's so powerful. Again, it's one of those cards I'm not inherently going to mulligan for, but if I have like a mediocre hand, I'm like, this hand's not fast enough, and I'm against Ral and Atali, I might, push for a Bobble because it's really good against those decks. Those
Yeah.
decks that are extremely fast, all in. It's obviously good against Mindbreak Trap, those types of things. I really like it. And the fact that we're even having the discussion of like, oh, darn, we got too much protection. And we're not even touching on Defense Grid, which is still a very playable card. I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit less playable, good maybe in like a welder build,
Yeah.
way better in a welder
Way
build,
better.
right?
Yeah.
And we still have City of Solitude, which,
The forgotten brother, the middle child. Oh no.
hey, it stops abilities of all
It
types.
does. It is potent, that's for sure.
Sadly, again, a 3 drop. If it was a 2 drop, this would be a
Dude, oh
non-conversation.
yeah. Oh, for sure. The problem that it has, the only time I've ever played this card, it was when I was on a food chain list that was playing Destiny Spinner. That's literally the only time I was playing that because I was on Allosaur Shepherd and Destiny Spinner, and then it feels a little better to play an enchantment 3 drop that protects from everything. But it's pretty brutal, man. Like I would play D Grid over City of Solitude all day. Yeah, even not in a welder build.
I think about the only I see it played in, I think, in the Lord Wind Grace list, those types of things. But those decks also are just like, I don't know, they don't draw a bunch of cards, so they don't necessarily are like getting, all their instant speed interaction in their hands. That's kind of the beautiful thing about Korvold. It's going to see a lot of cards in hand if the engine's going. But again, like I said, the fact that we're having the conversation of we have too much protection is kind of a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would love to be able to go, okay, redirect lightning, it's good, it's fine. I just wish this was another powerful 1-2 mana card that could just effectively win the game, something of that nature. I would like a more gas spell, I guess that would be the
Yeah.
right term to help overload that. Again, it could be a removal spell. Maybe it's something like a firestorm.
Yeah.
Firestorm was originally Japanese tech in Japanese Korvold like land centric builds years ago. Who knows? It could be anything. I think that slot or 1 to 2 slots could be pretty much whatever you feel comfortable with, I think.
I'm going to throw this manifesting out into the ether. Okay. Watsy, please print a gutter response that hits blue or white instant spells. We're so up. I can feel it right now. I can feel it. Oh, that would be gas.
Well, they did talk about that they put the other blast effects in Modern Horizons 3, but they just decided not to print them into Modern. So we would have had whatever
Oh,
the black version of Pyro Red Elemental Blast would
yeah.
have been called.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all for protection and interaction. And we're obviously going to miss a bunch of cards here, but this is just currently on our list what we wanted to talk about. Let's dip into lands. So let's talk the differences in our lands. We only have one right now, which I thought was shocking because a lot of times I've checked and we kind of like tinker with a bunch of different stuff. So you are on City of Brass, and I'm on Spicy Tech, Eric. You're Boomer Jund. You must love this. I'm on Dariga's Caldera right now, and it's been overperforming like crazy. I've been waiting to have my pedestal to talk about this card because it is so freaking good. Have you tested this card, Eric?
So I actually play with this card in my pre-modern deck.
Hell
So
yeah. So you understand the power.
I actually used to play this card in standard. So if that doesn't age me in my Dark Fires list, which was a Jun Yavimaya Fires list.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, this card is just super cool because I think a lot of people don't realize that the beginning ability of it is a trigger. So even if you play it, you can still tap it for a green, a black, or a red pip the turn you play it before it sacrifices itself. So worst case scenario, you're getting just like a spirit guide type effect from your land drop, and you get that sack trigger, which will trigger Korvold, get you a card draw. But the coolest aspect of this card is not just that, but it's the fact that having access to a untapped bounce land is like just chef's kiss, because sometimes you're able to play this, bounce it, have an exploration, bounce a land, have an exploration effect in play, recast that, hit another landfall trigger because of it. And then even better than that, there are manual sack loops through 6 with Lumra where you can feed yourself a land back to your hand by with a Lumra pullback and a sack outlet so that you can recast Lumra through retrace. So it's a self 6 feeding retrace loop that I've gotten to do once that just felt like it was the coolest thing ever. But at the end of the day, this land has not burned me yet. Even when I am playing it, just like play it as a land, tap it, let it die. I haven't been burned by it. So that's kind of like the upside of the card is what has kind of taken me off running something like a City of Brass or even like a Nurturing Peatland, which I think both of us really like that card too. And it comes in and out of our list. But I just think that the versatility of this and the combo potential has led me to play this over something like a City of Brass, which just provides so much consistency. So I'm kind of chasing ceilings, but it could be copium. Who knows? And shout out to people in the Discord who have mentioned this card before. Because yeah, I think that a lot of people were quick to criticize, including myself, until I actually tested it a lot. And then I was like, wow, this plays so much better than it reads. What are your thoughts, Eric?
When you're doing your loop, what's really interesting about that gets to be Korvold agnostic, right? Because you
Yeah.
don't ever have to worry about drawing the additional land to continue. So it's
Nope.
something that you could have milled it over with the 6, with the dredge effect,
Yeah.
Ice Tool Explorer, whatever that, and your opponents are not going to notice that because it's not the generic bounce lands that people are used to. They're not the Karoo lands
Yeah.
that we see out of something like Wandering Minstrel or some of the Loomer lists that play the green versions.
That enter tapped explicitly.
So they're going to largely ignore that. So that also allows you to not only bounce it, but also make a mana off of it, right? So it's another one of those self-perpetuating things. And I think, again, that's where, Kyle, I'm going to give you a lot of credit for. You're exploring with your list and you're not doing anything like ultra drastic in those types of slots. You're just going,
Nah.
is City of Brass going to make or break this list? It shouldn't. One land in a 32 land build shouldn't make or break it, right? Like this isn't, 22 land like Rogside or anything like that,
Yeah.
where like, you might want to really consider your mana sources. And that's where I think we could be in that Nurturing Peat land, whatever that, because obviously Nurturing Peat land plus Ice Tool Explorer is super powerful.
Oh yeah. So good.
It's tough because as weird as this sounds, 32 lands, I wish I could play 34.
Yeah, but I mean, I've played 34 lists, and so have you. It's a different. It feels different. A
It
34
does.
land list feels so much different than a 32 land list. And the reason why is it's a storm turn killer when you get up into those high land counts, right? Like you get to a
Right.
point where you're doing your storm, you're doing the thing that your deck wants to do. You're drawing one card at a time, casting the card, it's netting you a mana or netting you a resource and giving you another card draw to refill again. And you're doing that. And every time it's like you're hitting speed bumps every time you hit an extra land that you don't need during the storm turns. So it's like this weird line that we're walking where we want our lands in order to start the engine. But once the engine's going, lands can sometimes feel like speed bumps. But there's also setups where it feels good. Like if you have a 6, hell yeah, your lands are great. And I think that's why that card is so good. And anytime somebody asks in Discord, is 6 necessary? Can we cut the 6 Life from the Loam lines? I'm like, do not do that, please. Card is so good.
Yeah. Can we cut the card that rewards us and allows us to pitch our lands to 6 and just get them back off of Ice Tool Explorer? Can we
Yeah.
cut that card?
Yeah. Can we cut the card that actually allows us to play looser and recur the things that get countered or our mess ups and kind of just fixes all of our mistakes?
Yeah, that's literally what. Oh no, my breach got blown. It's okay. I
Yeah.
have six.
It's
I'm
okay. I have
good.
six. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Yeah.
Oh,
But
I
anyway,
really like that land. I think that slot could also be experimented with potentially,
oh, for
as
sure.
we've already mentioned, nurturing peat land. I've seen some people try to slot in an artifact land in that slot.
Interesting.
Yeah, it allows you to have those ruthless technomancer loops with Lumra without needing tireless provisioner.
Yeah. Honorable mention, have you thought about Takanuma recently? Because this is like OG Japanese lands
Oh,
tech, and I have it. I personally, I've tested it a lot. I'm just off it. I'm not a huge fan, but I think that that's kind of more up your alley.
so I play a lot against the Wandering Minstrel, and it obviously allows you to do those things. And if you had the flexibility, it's really nice to bounce your where I saw the power into it because I'm using the Karuru lands to bounce back
Hmm.
Takanuma. You could use Daragaze's Caldera to bounce back the Takanuma to continuate like a self perpetual mill as well.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's just tough because now you're getting into the realm of now I'm adding another just plain black source to my list.
Yep.
I'm already on two cards. Like I wish we didn't have to run the Urborg slots and the Yavimaya slots, even though they do fix a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're really just, especially Yavimaya is overperformed for me.
Oh, Yavimaya is so good. I think Urborg actually is potentially grounds to be cut. I was talking to Jorge about this the other day. If you were going to cut one of them, you obviously cut Urborg. Listeners at home, the reason why Urborg and Yavimaya seem like they are uncuttable is because if Squandered Resources is our main sacrifice outlet, it actually allows for our fetch lands to sacrifice for black or green, depending on if you have Urborg or Yavimaya out. And it also allows us to bank fetches. So if we play a fetch, but we don't necessarily want to crack it yet because we don't have a Korvold out or we don't have a Tireless Provisioner out or a Nissa out yet, we can just tap the fetches for swamp or forest, and it just overall provides a lot of utility there. But going back to your point, I don't know if Urborg is on that uncuttable level. I think Yavimaya is, but I don't know about Urborg.
Yeah, I like Yavimaya because of the green pip intensity that we might need for Nature's Rhythm. Fun fact, I cast Nature's Rhythm for its harmonized cost more than I've ever cast it for its green green X.
100%. 100%. I have cast it more for green green X with the X equal to 1 or 0 more than any other number.
Yeah.
Because I just want it in the bin. I
I
just
want
want
it
it
in the
in the
bin.
bin. And I want my Allosaurus Shepherd or a Sylvan Safekeeper or a Dryad Arbor.
Yeah. But it does fix that. It obviously allows the powerful forest synergies. It allows your Orcish Lumberjack to just eat really well
Mm-hmm.
and not miss those. The one thing that they both do is they allow you to, for example, if I have an Urborg out, normally my first fetch land is typically always getting Bayou.
Yep.
Like it's the most powerful dual land in the deck. With Verdict Catacomb, obviously the fetch lands and all the Jund fetches get that particular one, but it just allows you to go, oh, I can go get a Taiga because now I have all three colors and just one land. You know,
Yep.
it just it gives you some micro synergies there. I would love to be able to come off of one
Mm.
to allow one more powerful utility land that's crop rottable versus like Tekanuma. That's the only thing I don't like about Tekanuma. You're not ever
Yeah.
crop rotting for it.
No.
Um,
No.
and you're not going to get it back with Ice Tool Explorer, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
so you're probably wanting something like a Caldera, a Nurturing Peatland, potentially Horizon of Progress if you
That's an
trust your
interesting
mana
one.
base. Yeah. If it, I got so frustrated with it because again, I in theory it's really powerful, but it always end up being the only land that would allow me to have cast a turn one drop, and I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating because it'd
Yeah.
be like Horizon of Progress, City of Traders, and I'm like, I this sucks.
Yeah. It's brutal. The only other really like, well, if we want to get deep into the lands tank, the only other things that I've like considered recently are Phyrexian Tower, Lake of the Dead, and Surveil lands. Like those are the other three that I'm like kind of interested in. But because of the speed of the deck, I'm off Surveillance. I don't have a single tapped land in my deck, and I want to keep it that way. I think that it can be a big hindrance. And I don't play any of the untap effects, right? So people look at the one of the biggest questions. I don't know if you get this too, Eric, is like, why no Amulet of Vigor, right? Why no Tiller Engine? Maybe this is the Amulet Titan brains coming in, but honestly, like those cards, one, they're not easily tutored because we mostly have access to creature tutors. We have the unrestricted tutors, but at the same time, like Amulet's just so easily countered, and it's so dependent on specifically the pullback effect that I don't think it does anything until we're already in a position where we're winning the game. Whereas things like the Lotus Cobra or Nissa or the Tireless Provisioner are the main bread and butter of like what we're trying to get to. It's like it just sidetracks us too much.
Right. I also like to put in context where we see the amulet a lot. It's going to be something like Wandering Minstrel, which
Yeah.
they want to double up on that effect because that's the whole basis of their deck, especially the Luris
Yeah.
build, because the Luris build just has Lotus Cobra because it doesn't have the 3 drops because it can't play
Yeah.
him. And
Yeah.
then Lumra is because Lumra can't play Squadron Resources, which is the most powerful version of it. I think if you wanted to play that card, I think then you have to consider a Tezzeret package.
Yeah. Or Urza's Saga. It just goes down this long path. Like you start getting into this weird, you have to make a package for it. And it takes away from it's another one of those dependent cards, right? It's kind of similar to Warren or Chatterfang in those sense where it's just like it is dependent on other resources and other things going right for it to be successful in the list.
Right. Which, I would play Tezzeret without playing Amulet, and I have.
Tezzy's gas. Yeah.
It's real close. Like it's in my probably top 10 cards that I like adding to the list. All it would take is like some other ultra powerful 0/1 draw. I mean, it's pretty close with what we can get in the list now, anyways,
Yeah.
especially with Cabbage Merchant and Tyler's Provisioner just gassing it up. But I just like the experiment with the lands. I think where I've had now almost a year of playing the style list, I think you have to play the 10th fetch. Is that fair?
Oh yeah. I think Prismatic Vista is a no-brainer at this point. Once Ice Till was printed, we had no choice. Like I
Right.
think that the fetch lands plus Ice Till is just so powerful. It's one of the most powerful starting setups that you can have in your list. It's like a turn 2 Ice Till with any fetch. It doesn't matter what. It's Prismatic Vista has actually performed so well that I've considered having another basic, right? Like just throwing another snow covered forest in there or something like that. That's how much I've really enjoyed Prismatic Vista. So I think that it is almost a necessity at this point. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I definitely you want to have that consistency. And the way I look at it in my list is, all right, what land would that be? Because I was on starting town, but I was also on a way heavier red build
Yeah, you
than
were.
that before. I was on a very heavy red build. I was on like a package of Impulsive Pilfer, Script Prospector, Skittering Precursor. Oddly, that list was really it felt like I could just win on turn 3 a lot of times. But again, Cabbage Merchant gets printed, changes everything.
Yep. Carriage
uh,
Merchant and Ice Till. Those are probably the two most impactful cards that we've gotten of recent that have really like kind of warped how we play.
and I just like having that additional ability to trigger a Vondu Bushrazor as well. Having that
Yeah.
additional fetch land. If anything, the swamp might be the card that I could see, at least from my perspective in my list, might be the one that is swappable for a mountain because I have a little bit more red than you. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say that would be wild for me. My red symbols right now are at 18%. So
18%.
nothing.
I'm probably not
Nothing.
that much higher than you. Let's see.
My
Let's look at.
green is 50%.
Okay. So I'm
Oh,
at 22% red, 29% black, and 43% green. It's just that, like, you got to think your black's eaten up by necropotence. That's a big part of it as well.
yeah.
Obviously, green can't be touched, but me being on redirect lightning, being on
Brush
Avondu Bush
Racer.
Razor,
Yeah.
that type of stuff, I could just see potentially playtesting that slot a little bit more. I'm on gamble.
Yeah. You have significantly more red cards that you would deploy early. And I think that that's a reason to think about it. That being said, sometimes the black pips are just super necessary because at the end of the day, we're still like heavily focused on the unrestricted tutors. So like having a potential swamp into an Imperial Seal or a Vamp tutor at turn one kind of make or breaks the game a lot of the times.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thought process there. But yeah, any quick notes on Lake of the Dead or Phyrexian Tower?
Again, I just think Phyrexian Tower is a powerful land. It allows you to power out those Necros, those Nazus pretty easily. It allows you to utilize your Dryad Arbor. I think it's an absolutely fine card to play. And I think potentially that could be easily a slot in for city traders. And if for whatever reason for players, if you play in an area that doesn't allow proxies,
Yeah,
Phyrexian Tower is a excellent choice for that slot, or Crystal Vein too.
true for City of Traders.
Yeah, I would absolutely still want something that produces 2 mana because, man, just being able to power out those 3 drops of the Ice Hill Explorer on turn 2 is so valuable. That's one of the cards that kind of got left over from the NBC Korvold list. That's a whole nother tangent. Most people
Yeah,
actually don't know what NBC. People just use it now. They call everything NBC. No, your deck's not. You're playing Copy Artifact. You're
yeah.
playing. You're playing a bad card. But that's a whole nother tangent. But yeah, I think those are absolutely fine. Lake of the Dead, and again, Jorge and I have talked about this. There is, and I haven't had the time to really dive into this. I think there's a version potentially that is Lake of the Dead over Cradle,
Oh,
and you
whoa.
focus, yeah,
Yeah,
and you focus more on Beseech the Mirror versus Nature's Rhythm, and you go a slightly different route.
yeah,
I don't know if that's a thing. It's something interesting to consider. I like having both, and again, that's where I tested them in the 34 land slot. I really liked it there.
yeah,
But and 32 lands, it's really hard to have Lake and Cradle in the same list. I always found a slight tension in it. I don't know if you have.
yeah.
But when you
100%.
mulligan and you see them in your like, I can keep a Cradle in my opening hand because I can by the time turn 2, 3, Cradle's juiced up. That Lake of the Dead may not be very good until a little bit later, and it doesn't progress me forward. So
I think that Lake of the Dead has such incredibly high ceilings, but such incredibly low floor. Like the
agree.
floor of the card is so bad. Like it is way worse than a surveil land in what it's doing at the floor, but the ceiling is incredibly high. So I think there's a lot of potential in that card. I think that those are the three types of cards that I really think about. I guess I'll honorable mention Dakmor Salvage, but I think after 2 years of playing Life of the Loam over Dakmor Salvage effectively, I think that it just doesn't compete personally, but I think that if that fits your play style better, if there's a Get Rog player who's trying to switch to Korvold and they just feel comfort in that, they can do that. And then the forbidden tech. You ready for this forbidden tech, Eric? That
I'm
I've
ready.
tested in 2 games and it's done nothing. Winding Canyons. Okay.
Is that the one that gives your creatures flash?
Yes. Winding Canyon says tap to add a colorless mana, and then you can pay 2 colorless and tap it. Until end of turn, you may play creature cards, or whenever you can play instants, which is old text of saying give creatures flash. Because I do think that there's a world where it helps Necro. You're not fully focused on just hitting E zone. Now you have a secondary, and you can crop rot, and people be like, I'm not going to let that crop rot resolve. It's going to be an emergent zone. You'd be like, it's not an emergent zone. Hit him with the boom, Winding Canyons out of nowhere. Win the game with Winding Canyons. Anyway, you don't even have to reply to this, Eric. This is too deep in the bag, but I consider this card often. It's my sleep paralysis Korvold demon.
Hey, that's the kind of thinking you have to do. You honestly do. So I don't know if you know this, but there was a point in modern CDH. It's weird to say that, but in the last few years, where at the time a prominent player talked about how bad Crop Rot Emergent Zone was. It just Emergent Zone as a card,
Mm-hmm.
and then I remember as I'm smashing people in Punt City 3 in Cowtown with Crop Rot E Zone, and they're just winning me games over
Oh yeah.
Wounded's double blue draw engine, the one ring on turn 3, and I'm like, listen, I don't think you can play without these cards specifically. I don't think you can play this deck without those cards. Like,
It's Walmart version of Crop Rot E-Zone, Eric. I'm telling you. And Walmart version of an incredibly powerful effect sometimes is playable. Sometimes.
I wouldn't rule. You can't rule anything out anymore. I mean, we've seen. Look, we're bottomless causalic looping. I put nothing past in
You can play a
CEDH
Shuffle
at this.
Titan. You can play a Winding Canyons, baby.
I do want to piggyback real quick on
Yeah.
the Derogase's Cultura. Do you know why that card's so good?
Because it taps for Jund.
Have you just looked how rich the colors are and the art on that card?
Oh yeah, it's sitting right in front of me. I'm opening the deck right now just to take a look at that foil. You know, it's so funny. Complete tangent. I don't know if this is gonna make the video or not. I looked everywhere for a foil because I didn't have the old foil of it, and there was nothing on TCG that was under like $30. I was like, what the heck? Why is this card so expensive? And then someone told me after it was pre-modern. But anyway, the card is beautiful. The plane shift foil of Caldera, oh, incredible.
I have a Christmas list card from that time frame, and I know I'm getting it because my wife already got it for me, but I don't get it till Christmas. It is a foil, uh, Daragaz Igniter, Japanese foil.
Ooh, spicy.
So I have been a Jun guy for a long, long time. And back then we didn't call it Jun, obviously, because that wasn't a name. We called it Daragaz. You played Daragaz, like
Yep.
whether Daragaz was in your deck or not. So
Damn. Now that is a dragon legend right there. All right. Let's move past lands. Before we get into our mulligan theory, wow, we're 2 hours into this, baby. We're crushing it. Feels like nothing. It feels like we've been talking for 20 minutes, Eric. I think we could talk about Korvold infinitely. We're gonna get into cards that we see a ton of potential in, aka cards that come in and out of the list. First one I wanted to bring up that I think about often is actually Flare. All right. So Flare of Duplication to me, I see this card just perform like so freaking well for like every deck that plays it. And I just get really jealous of the card, but I don't actually think that we have enough red creatures to play it. What is your thoughts on Flare and where the deck has to be in order to actually play Flare Duplication?
I think at one point we were close when it was more of the impulsive pilferer style
Yeah.
because it was a nice utility one drop that happened to have benefit with other things in the deck. I played Flare when I was playing the Skirt Prospector, Pilferer,
Yeah.
Avandu Bushraiser, those types of things. But when the deck's doing the thing, it it's kind of tough. I feel like I'm never flush with that little red do nothing creature or a creature that I want to sacrifice. Because I don't
Yeah.
care. I'll sack Mayhem Devil. I don't care about Mayhem Devil. If I got value out of Vondu Bushraiser, as long as I don't have anything exiled that I need specifically, I don't care. I'll
Yeah.
sack Korvold because a lot of the combos are Korvold agnostic. But what happens is because of Korvold's inability to successfully mulligan really, really low into that Ristic, where it can just basically play the Rog into the Ristic, and then you just hit a flare off your draw.
Yeah.
We just don't have that ability, and it scales really high. It mulls really poorly in the list.
Agreed.
Also, I don't really want to sack my Orcish Lumberjack hardly at all. Like, I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of the most
He's
powerful
too
cards in the
good.
deck.
Yeah.
He's way too good.
Let that man keep chopping wood. All right. Just let him go to work. And please print us. Please, Watsy. I'm manifesting again. Please print us a retro foil of that card. Please. Anyway. All right.
Oh,
The next card I want to talk about is OBM Opposition Agent. So I am not on either of these cards right now. I do think that both of these cards are underplayed in our current meta, and these are both cards that Korvold has played historically. So, what are your thoughts on each of these cards? I know you play OBM right now currently in your list.
yes. Again, unfortunately, the 3-drop slot is glutted. I do think Opposition Agent is quite underplayed, and it actually, I was building a deck with Evan I call him Perfect Cell just because Dragon Ball Z reference. But Evan from Europe, who is the Francisco Thras player, who just always crushes and tops the tournaments over there. And we were tested. They play a lot of opposition agent scheming symmetry over there.
Yes.
And as again, another non graveyard agnostic combo, but just opposition agent, I feel like where people have basically completely forgot about it, or just like, oh yeah, they don't play that card. Blue Farm doesn't play that card, and it could catch people off guard. I think it's a fine card. I think might bias that exact turn that we need, because we might need to develop that turn. We can hold up a fetch land, crack it, get the additional mana, tap whatever, get our landfall trigger, and then flash in the oppo to steal that effect. I like to say steal the initiative. But
Yeah.
you're still, or again, it could be a political piece if you need it to be.
Yeah.
It's the suffering of the 3-drop slot. And then with OBM, I talked to Jorge about this. I hate this card. I
Yeah.
really
Same.
do.
Yeah.
And then it just wins me the game. I just go,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, I'm like, wow. And I think about it too, because its floor is, and I hate look, everything gets cloned now, sadly. That's the world
Yeah.
we live in,
Yep.
because they just keep printing ridiculous clones. But where I've utilized it most is to like pick off Esper Sentinel or pick off another OBM and then just get to untap with that additional body for a culling ritual, or even if you are playing something like Phyrexian Tower.
Mm-hmm.
But it just allows you to increase your cradle count as well.
And you can hit a fat techno off of the army too. That is a
That's
very
literally what
nice.
happened.
Yeah. Once in a while, it just sits and it shoots and it shoots and it shoots, and then you cast a Technomancer into a 10/10 orc army, and it's like we have Dockside again.
Well, we were playing and it was the black red Anya list
Yep.
that, because they've apparently got some new tools, and I thought the list was pretty neat. And then they just thought they just had the game won. They were going to cast a wheel, and I just flashed an OBM and wiped the board.
Yep.
And it was back to my turn, and I just literally demonic tutored for Ruthless Technomancer, and I'm like, well, that's the ball game, folks.
Well, that's a 27 treasures on my board or whatever. Yeah.
It just does just enough for me not to cut it. I'm like begging for something in
A
that
reason
slot
to cut it. Yeah. Well, for me, like, dude, just cut Veil and then you won't need OBM anymore. It's freeing. It's 2 slots, Eric. I'm telling you, dude. The second I cut Veil, I was like, I don't need this OBM because it's just going to cause me more problems than it's going to create, right? But yeah, that's ultimately why I stopped playing OBM, is because it just got cloned so much. And as a pilot, I just have so much trouble navigating Orcish Bowmaster. And maybe it's a skill issue. I don't know. Or maybe it's just a preference, but I'd rather see less OBM than take advantage of OBM for me. And my games, I've seen far less. I've had far less troubles in my storm turns because of it. So I think, anecdotally speaking, in my meta specifically, I don't really miss it, except for the 1-off or 2-offs where an Ob or a Ral casts a wheel. Then it does snap win you the game. So you got that going for you. And we don't play wheel, right? So if we played wheel, I would think about it more for sure. But if it's just completely relying on your opponent, it can be really tough.
I'm pretty close to. I wish I could slot wheel in. I don't think I can. I'd have to do some really like soul searching to move wheel into the list.
Yeah.
It's pretty close. It and Jessica's will are pretty close because they're just powerful cards on their own. And then I'm just like thinking like, okay, if I'm drawing 7 in my list and I'm protected, I'm gonna be able to convert off of this.
Yeah.
But again, that's the one of the flexibility slots in the creatures that I think that we have, and it could be. I keep saying it could be like anything. Like I know you recently cut Badger Mole Cub because we get asked a lot of like why Badger Mole Cub's not in the list. You cut it because again you said clone effects, right?
Yeah, the Rog Thrust. I play so much Rog Thrust in Kinnan, it's insane. Like so much. And if Rog Thrust gets 2 Badger Moles, you lose the game. That's just like game set match.
And honestly, I'm not on it because I just don't have the slots for it. I just don't have the room. I was like, well, if I wanted that, I mean, I think I might be on Springheart and Tuco over it just because it provides bodies. It does some combo potential with our cards already in our deck. It's like all those slots could almost be something else. And you're not necessarily gonna like miss any of those. It could be Rydia potentially, right? Like
Yeah. And we don't get to take advantage of it like a lot of the lists that really do, in a sense of like we aren't able to play a lot of the really good dorks because we're on Nissa lines. So Nissa flips for elves and elementals, and you do not want to dilute your flips of hitting like the main targets and like Lumira and Aftermath Analyst, sometimes Tireless Provisioner.
Just cut your Nissa, bro.
Never, never. Do not do that. The card is so good. But like in general, the lists that really, really shine with Badger Mole are able to play Llanowar Elves, they're able to play Finhorn Elves, they're able to play Deathrite Shaman, and take advantage of all those. But we don't get to do that, which sucks.
Fun fact: your Deathrite Shaman does not trigger off your Badger Mole Cub.
Oh, that's true. It doesn't. Yeah, you're right. But I do miss it dearly.
Yes,
Card's so
I
good.
do. Yeah. Again, it could be really anything. And honestly, it would be nice to just have another one drop mana creature in
Yeah.
that slot. That would fix. I feel like that would feel quite a bit more comfortable and not something hokey I have to work towards.
Yeah, like a gene pollinator.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
great in ROG because of you get to start with a 0 mana commander.
Yeah. 100%. The thing that I think is closest in that slot that isn't quite there, but it's right there is Wild Cantor. I think about Wild Cantor very often, especially because Delighted Halfling sometimes feels lackluster in Sans Korvold lines that we go for. And on a storm turn, if I'm going to draw a card on this Knife's Edge storm turn, would I rather draw a Wild Cantor or a Delighted Halfling? It would definitely be a Wild Cantor because I get to filter my mana and I get card draw off of it. So I don't know.
We'll just add another 3 drop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll just add another 3 drop. I really feel like it needs to be like something that produces mana that isn't bad. And I know that's like
That isn't bad.
people offer a lot of wild suggestions, but it needs to be something that produces mana material or draws cards to get us into those situations, right? Like
Yeah.
I would take a green Archivist of Ogma,
Oh, for sure. For sure.
or a green Wang Shitong. I'd
Yeah.
take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Or what's the white creature that all the decks play? This is the 2 mana that makes the
The
treasure.
Taru that makes a
Yeah.
treasure. Can you imagine if that was in red, green, or black? Oh my God. We would be so up.
Or as always, the Lotho type card for us, that would be ideal. That would probably
Yeah.
be the one for me.
Yep, for sure. Well, speaking of 2-drop green thing that gives us card advantage, I'll give you a little platform here. You want to talk about a specific card that you really like that I don't like. Sylvan Library.
Yeah. So again, shout out to Jorge.
Dude's gotten like 10 shout outs.
We've talked about this card quite a bit. And so when I do my playtesting and I'll have my playtesting slots, I basically take a blank card and I write what that slot would be, right, on the card. And then I write 2 more cards typically on it. So that slot where Sylvan Library sits has been Carpet of Flowers, Chthonian Nightmare, and Sylvan Library. After 8 games of playing, I'm seeing what this card feels like. Are these cards that I want to see? Or do I ever want to see Chthonian Nightmare outside of a Wedline? Do I ever what's Carpet feeling like in most games? And when I'm mulliganing very low, or I'm mulliganing where I don't get to deploy another 3-drop after a Nissa or a Cobra turn, what does that look like? Do any of those cards help me? They typically don't.
Yeah.
But Sylvan Library allows me to basically have a shot because it just allows me to get 3 deep. It's not about, a lot of times I don't even necessarily take the 3 cards unless I need exactly those cards, or I just want to move them out of the way to continue digging deeper. What's really nice is if I have a fetch land or access to a fetch land in my graveyard, I can just leave the other lands on top and then let Ice Till do the rest, right? I can just mill those away. I can fill my graveyard with lands, mill them away. But on those low mulls where I see like 1-drop, 2 lands, Sylvan Library, 3-drop, that's a fine hand. It's not a great hand, but it's a hand that allows me to play Magic the Gathering and get me back into it.
It jumps your EV from 0 to like a little higher than 0.
Right.
I'll give you
but
that.
if that is just another combo piece or a non-consistent mana piece, it's just another dead card. So Sylvan Library, and it's easy to cast.
Yeah.
If it was double green, I wouldn't even consider it. But the
Yeah.
fact that it's super easy to cast really helps that card out. And I don't think the card is great, but we don't have that luxury. We don't have
Yeah.
Mystic Remora,
Yeah.
I mean, we're
Yeah.
never gonna have Mystic Remora.
I
So go
yeah, I
ahead.
give I give the benefit of Sylvan Library, the biggest one being that we are so starved at the 2-drop spot. Like so starved. Like we just
Yeah.
don't have access to some of the best 2-drops, especially ones that give card advantage or resource advantage, like you were saying. So for me, it competes with OBM in my brain of like things that I want to play at 2-drops, but I've just seen it do so little, and especially in a deck where our life total gets pressured often, it can be really, really, really dangerous. So I don't know. Those are my 2 cents. But I see where you're coming from on Sylvan Library. We need a 2-drop that gives us card advantage. We really don't have those. So I see the vision. I just don't want to accept the vision, Eric.
Right. I understand. I understand. And again, even just filtering 3 is still nice. Like when you get to like look at basically you'll draw your 3 and then you go, huh, I don't want these cards at all. I'll just take this one really good card. And then
Yeah,
we get the ability to just, oh, cool, I can put those on top. I can mill them with 6. I can mill them with Ice Steel Explorer. If it wasn't for the other cards in the deck, it may not be as good. But when I look at our other options, it's pretty slim pickings at the 2 or 1-drop slot for just really powerful cards. And Carpet's fine. And there's an argument that Carpet is better now that if people are trying to make the games go longer.
agreed.
That's another card that could be potentially in that slot. I don't play against a lot of those types of decks.
Mhm.
Uh, I play against a lot of players who try to win the game. um,
Not just
they're
draw
not
the game.
yeah, they're not trying to do this where everybody has the Heartwood storyteller like effect, right?
Yeah,
But
nightmare game.
those games exist, and you have to have the ability to play in those games. And I just think right now I don't see anything. And we could just get a random printing of a card that and again, cards that
Changes
have
everything.
fallen.
Yeah.
Yeah, cards that fall in that type of slot have been something like Ripples. If Ripples allowed you to not pay mana, just life, it would have been like night and day
Oh
difference,
my
right? Like
gosh. That card is perpetually a card that makes you feel like you are like spinning your wheels and going nowhere.
so close to being like really, really good. And again, it was a lot different pre-ban because cards cost 1 and 2 mana versus 3 mana a lot of times. And
Yep.
I'll pay 1 mana to put a dockside in my hand. You know what I mean? Like versus I don't want to pay 1 mana to put Ice Till in my hand if I can't cast the Ice Till Explorer, so
Yeah. Okay. So we've gotten to the point in the podcast where I want to play a game with you, Eric. And if you've listened to the podcast, listeners at home, for our general That's a Good Card podcast, what we do is we do something called a lightning round, where normally I give the name of a deck. And then my co host Ya or any guest will say, scale of 1 to 10, how likely they would be to test the card in the deck. We're going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to do a lightning round. I'm going to give Eric the name of a Korvold sideboard card, and then he's going to say scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely, I'm actively testing it and I think it's great, and potentially could go in the deck, to 0 or 1 being, no, I will not let that take up space in my mind. We'll see what he says. Eric, are you ready for some Korvold sideboard cards? Lightning round. So it's got to be gut reaction, Eric.
all right, I'm
And then you
ready.
can explain your thought process after you give your gut reaction, okay? All right, first card, Summer Bloom.
9.
Ooh, okay, okay. So you think that that's got some legs underneath it, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I've been testing it. It's been in
Ooh,
and out of the
okay,
list. Oh yeah.
okay. Yeah, I think that the ability to convert Nazes gets a lot better with Summer Bloom. That's for sure. And I'll throw the card up on the screen as we're talking. But listeners at home, Summer Bloom is 1 in a green for a sorcery. You may play up to 3 additional lands this turn. Okay, next one. You ready? Deadpool.
Ready. 8.
Okay. Okay. I'm currently playing Deadpool. It comes in and out of the list. There's been games that it absolutely wins the game for me, and then there's games where it does absolutely nothing. So it does have cheeky loops with Ruthless Technomancer. So it does have combo potential in the deck, but getting to those board states is very challenging. Ways that you win with Deadpool generally come from stealing somebody else's really good card versus actually doing a proactive loop with your own cards. That has been my anecdotal experience with it. Do you kind of think similarly, Eric?
Yeah, I just like the fact that Deadpool has that ability and it's a great reanimation target, which is why I think you have to play something like Animate Dead in our list because it's just super cheap. It's recurable off six. It gets anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just having that overload ability between like it and reanimate, just being able to just entomb a card like that into the bin or mill it, or whether it's six, I still explore those types of effects just gives you that tool that you need because maybe a removal spell isn't what you need. You need the threat of Deadpool to force some action to happen.
Yeah. Cool. Next one, Slaughter Pact.
Oh, that's like a 7 to 8.
Oh,
Always thinking
really?
about always thinking about Slaughter Pact.
Always thinking about Slaughter Pact. Okay.
Always thinking about Slaughter Pact.
My favorite fringe benefit of Slaughter Pact specifically is we don't really we make so much mana, right? Is if I use Slaughter Pact to stop somebody's win, I can sit there and be like, I have to pay for Pact. Like, what are you doing? And people go, oh yeah, you're right. He has to pay for Pact. I don't have to be worried about him. And I'm like, it's two and a black. Like I make like 8 mana on my turn. Like I can still win, but the people at home don't know that. That's my favorite benefit of Slaughter Pact.
And I'm always looking to trim the list down, right? I'm always trying to look for more efficient cards
Yeah.
that, like right now, like let's say I cut OBM and I put Slaughter Pact in. That drops me by literally 2 mana. That
Yep.
makes my Nas way better, right?
Yep.
Like in that specific scenario. So I'm always looking for cards that do similar things that make the deck more efficient.
Oh, then you're gonna love this one, Eric. You ready? The next one, Hearthhole the World Seed.
Probably about a six.
Okay, yeah, and that was a joke, listeners at home. This card is 4 mana, so it's one in Jund for a legendary spacecraft artifact. It has a station ability. The first one is a +2, pay one, tap, sacrifice a land, draw 2 cards. You may play an additional land this turn, and then a 8+ station, flying, vigilance, haste. Whenever you sacrifice a land, each opponent loses 2 life. So this is a really interesting card. I think about it probably more than you do. I think I'd put it at like an 8. If I were to ever cut Mayhem Devil, I think this could be an interesting conversion. So if we follow my thought process that I've been talking about of like getting rid of cards that don't storm well for cards that do storm well, Mayhem Devil is not a storm card. It's a good card, but it's not a storm card. Hearthhole can fill the slot of still being a finisher and also being a storm card. So that's the only reason I sometimes think about it, but the rate is kind of poopy.
The rate's a little poopy. I think of it as if I'm gonna play the One Ring kind of card, it's this card. And again, I've talked about it with Jorge a lot, and it kind of there's a package with Tezzeret I've thought about with this card because it's an
Mm,
artifact, which is
yeah,
awesome. And you play like a few key, you play it's like a key package with this Tezzeret and some other stuff. It's like a hybrid artifact lands list.
yeah,
um, but again, it's a lot of effort that I unfortunately am not willing to do right now. I do think
yeah.
it's quite good, and it's trivial to station it because once you're in your looping step, you will always be able to station it up.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's a non-negotiable, and the fact that it stations super easily for its first ability off of Lotus Cobra.
Yep, that's the hardest thing about Exploration Broodship with Lotus Cobra is that you're always one off. It kind of sucks. You're like, you have to have something else. You have to have at least one more to get the Exploration Broodship going. That being said, I mean, it's 1 mana for Exploration Broodship, which is why it's so gas. Okay, last one. Let's do this is one that gets talked about in the Discord pretty often. Traverse the Ulvenwald. It's 1 green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. But if you have Delirium, if there are 4 or more card types among the cards in your graveyard, instead search your library for a creature or land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
7.
Okay. Have you tested it recently?
I've you can thank Sam Black for that.
Hmm.
Because that Sam's pretty high on that card. Because Malevolent Rumble is a card that I test quite a bit.
Yeah.
That comes in and out. Oddly, that's been the 2-drop slot, the saving grace 2-drop slot sometimes is Rumble. And I just think
Yeah,
Rumble's a really powerful card.
agreed.
And again, a lot of this happened pre the Cabbage Merchant. So I'm trying to cast the Cabbage Merchant or another powerful 3-drop, but the Rumbles was that kind of that slot that just kind of was a nice value card. It does everything the deck wants, right? Like it digs 4 deep, it mills, it gives you material, it potentially gets you a land or a permanent of your choice, whatever it may be. And when I think about cards like Traverse, I'll even throw one back with you. A card that I have actively tested with not just Traverse has been Demonic Council as well.
Oh, God, I hate that card, Eric. You're killing me. That card has been recommended for the podcast so many times, Eric. And eventually we will do a podcast on Demonic Council, and I'm going to be the bad guy for it. I already know. I have strong feelings against that card. I would put that card at a 4 or a 5, probably out of 10.
I would put it as high as Traverse. But Traverse being able to just get a basic is really nice. Like that's its floor in the deck, and we
Yeah.
have basics.
And we play 2 basics, exactly. So it's not too bad in that sense, but. Boop, 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 boop. Hey, everybody, it's Kyle from the editing room. Just wanted to quickly go over a singular card that is coming out in the newest set. Well, by the time this airs, will be already out in the newest set. It's something that at the time of recording, we didn't have any practice on this card, but while we were editing, Eric and I just decided, hey, we didn't talk about this in the podcast, but it's likely going to have a huge impact on Korvold in general. So we're just going to bring up some points here. Eric sent me a list of things that he wanted to make sure that we highlight, and we're just going to review this awesome new card, Ominous Harvest. So Ominous Harvest is 2 and a black for a sorcery with Gravestorm. And the reminder text on Gravestorm is when you cast this spell, copy it for each permanent put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn. And then it reads, target player draws a card and loses 1 life. So this card, like I said, when we recorded this, wasn't released yet. Now it is a legal card. And with a little bit of testing from Eric, he wanted to make sure that we were talking about this. So I'm going to run through the points that he sent over to me. So he sent to me, I was cautiously optimistic when this card was first spoiled. Gravestorm is already a powerful mechanic and becomes even stronger in a Landstorm shell. Point 1, Ominous Harvest can function as a low resource recovery tool, drawing several cards to refuel your hand. In practice, it can resemble a 3-mana one-sided wheel that draws 6 to 8 cards. 2, it scales effectively with Gravestorm count, giving it the ceiling to replace Nazir Necro as a game-ending engine. 3, it is efficient to cast at 2 black and pairs equally well with Culling Ritual specifically. The interaction creates significant value and it amplifies Harvest's output. 4, it integrates naturally into the Terra Storm shells. Korvold decks already sacrifice a ton of permanents, treasures, lands, creatures, so Harvest aligns with existing game plans while avoiding excess triggers from Rhystic Study, right? So you get to effectively get a bunch of cards without triggering a bunch of Rhystic triggers. Notable synergies, things that we sack often, are all of our land sack engines, so Sweat of Resources, Zurin Orb, Rainafil, Sylvan Safekeeper, but also anything that makes a ton of treasures. Whether that's a Tireless Provisioner for treasures from fetch lands, plus the fetch itself, or something like a Ruthless Technomancer, which just converts Ominous Harvest really, really well. Final note is that Ominous Harvest is going to probably push decks towards Witherbloom Apprentice Chainasmog. It offsets the life loss for draining opponents, and it enables combo lines independent of Korvold through Squadron-style loops. Just be aware that you might deck yourself if you get a little too crazy with it. But yeah, those are the points we kind of wanted to make on Ominous Harvest. I'm really excited to test this card. I think that it will give us a way to push through those scenarios where our opponents only have one piece of interaction. So, all right, just want to make that quick point before we move on to Mulligans. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, we are 2.5 hours in. I wanted to leave at least a half an hour to talk about Mulligans and Mulligan theory and go through some Mulligan hands. Because I think that hearing our thought processes can definitely help newer Korvold players in general. So before we get into actual hands, let's talk about some signpost cards, things that you look for in your opening Mulligans, and then we'll get into some actual hands, okay? So I wrote out a couple of my signpost cards. Let me know if you agree with these and or want to like rank these or things that you're looking for. So my signpost cards are Six, Nissa, Icehill Explorer, Cabbage Man, Necro, and anything that gets me to an early Nas. Am I missing anything there?
In terms of signpost cards, no. I think
Yeah.
that covers it pretty nicely. Basically, we want to see our powerful value three drops and then ISO Explorer because ISO Explorer is really the reason why I'm still on lands, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It's that powerful.
Question for you that I think about pretty consistently to myself, and I don't know if it's a misplay or not. If you have, let's say, a Green Sun Zenith for X equals 3 on a naked board early on, let's say you have one fetch available. How often are you getting Nissa versus Tireless Provisioner with a fetch available on your next turn?
It just depends on what I plan on trying to do on my next turn. Am I trying to cast Korvold, or do I feel like the Nissa is going to allow me to build through that chain? Like, is Nissa going to provide me with the material? Now, if I already have like lands in the graveyard and that type of thing, then the Nissa might be a little bit better. But I would still say I Tireless Provisioner is probably the card that I get more often than not. That
Really?
card
Okay.
is when I look at that card, I think of I'm drawing cards with it. If it's paired with something else, like if it's paired with I Still Explore, I'm probably absolutely getting the Tireless Provisioner because if
Yeah.
the plan is to follow up with Korvold. Now, if the plan is to just like get my chain going and get my value and kind of build back up, then this is a phenomenal choice. I don't, it just really depends on what your decision tree is based on with everything that's going on, like what's in my hand, what's in the graveyard. But that's
Yeah.
a really great question for a lot of new Corvold plots because sometimes the provisioner is the correct choice. Sometimes the NIS is the correct choice. And I just think, and then sometimes you're just flooded with resources that it's really hard to distinguish which
Yeah.
is the right one. And also something that could change the dynamic of that is what else is in your hand? Do you have an
Yeah.
ESG in your hand? Maybe you used ESG you're using ESG to get stuff out early. Do you have one of the other cards in your hand? What are your options of getting the iced, the childish provisioner off the Nissa? What does that look like? Are you okay with getting a Lumra or an Aftermath Analyst? Do those cards actually even help in your situation? If they don't, then you might want to go with the card that provides you with permanent mana.
Yeah. It's a really good thought exercise here. I have kind of developed this general rule of thumb of being like, do I have at least one other payoff in my hand, whether that's a tutor or any other powerful storm or value spell? If I do, I lean towards Tireless Provisioner. If it's against two control lists, though, I need to have two payoffs in my hand because there's been too many scenarios where I go Tireless Provisioner instead of Nissa, and then I use my big payoff spell. Let's say it's I don't know, a demonic tutor to go grab something, and that gets countered, and then I'm stuck with a Tireless Provisioner. I don't have any extra lands, let's say, and I'm just stuck in this weird spot where I have a naked Tireless Provisioner effectively,
Right.
and then my only plan is next turn cast Korvold, hope I draw a fetch. And that can be a really, really dangerous spot to be when we only have 10 fetches in the list. So I think that generally speaking, on a naked board, have no resources, I'm like 99% Nissa or six. The only time I choose between how I distinguish between Nissa and six is whether or not I have a fetch in hand. If I have a fetch in hand, I'm likely going Nissa. The only time where I'll go six is if I have a fetch in hand and there's a Life from Loam and or Lotus Petal already in my bin, then I'll go six.
Sure.
But the majority of the time, I'm going Nissa. If I have no land in hand, I'm almost always going Cabbage Man.
Yeah. I had a game last week where I was looking at the board state and I'm just like, I had to end a turn, Worldly Tutor. And I was just like, do I really actually want a Worldly Tutor for anything? Because I don't have anything to really follow up if it's Nis or Tyler's Provisioner. It was a
Yeah.
low mulligan game. And I go,
Yeah.
oh, duh. I just have the Cabbage Merchant.
Yep.
And I just played Cabbage Merchant, ended up with a pile of food, came back around, developed, came back around to me again, won with a Necro.
Boom.
So yeah, Cabbage Merchant is one of those where that's a really good safe one to go get. That card is so nice.
I will say there's very few scenarios where if I do have those extra resources, like extra lands in hand, that I would get a Cabbage Man over Nissa or six. It's almost never. If you have the lands, I think it's very, very consistent to just go for a Nissa or a Tyler's Provisioner or a six if you have a Lotus Petal in the bin or something like that.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
So we've talked about our Mulligan theory. Let's get into actual hands. Okay, Eric. So our first test hand for you. Let's read out the pod first. So seat one is Rogdrass. Seat two is Sisse. Seat three is Rocco. And you are in Korvold in a miserable seat four. The hand is Worldly Tutor, Pyroblast, Arid Mesa, Nature's Rhythm, Deflecting Swat, Summoner's Pact, Scalding Tarn. Once again, for the listeners, we have 2 lands in Scalding Tarn and Arid Mesa. We have a Summoner's Pact, a Deflecting Swat, a Pyroblast, and then Nature's Rhythm and a Worldly Tutor.
Yeah, this is a mull for me.
First 7 mull, huh?
Yeah, easily. This is a mull to 5. Like in my opening 7. Summoner's Pact doesn't really do anything in this opening hand. Deflecting Swat's virtually it's pretty dead. I have 2 fetches, which is really nice, but I don't have a 1-drop that I can play off of it, or something like, or even being able to get into a nice 3-drop on turn 2. I like the Pyroblast. Rolling Tutor is a card I'm just kind of getting less and less high, or I'm becoming less and less enjoy. It's like more so like I only want to play it if it's not going to cut me off of resources, right? Like if I need to see a new card. Like when I'm looking at this hand, I'm effectively a mulligan to 4, or I'm sorry, a mulligan to 5,
Yeah.
and worldly tutoring at any point in time does not feel good. If I had a turn 1 the ability to potentially Nature's Rhythm, I'd go get a Dryad Arbor, but I can't. And it's not obviously you're not going to summer
No,
back for
no. For, no, for anything, for ESG.
right. So and being in seat 4, I'm looking for, like, Rocco's an extremely fast deck, and depending on what Rocco's trying to do, like Rocco's not trying to play. This isn't a deafening silence match because that does not stop Rock Thrashers to say really in the least because they'll just develop under it.
Yeah.
And Rocco is going to be a really fast deck. Rock Thrash is extremely very favored in this position. I would absolutely ship this.
Yep, agreed. I think that, especially since your Pyroblast is a lot less potent against Rogdrass to say Rocco, your Deflecting Swat is dead in hand because you don't have a way to get Korvold fast. So even though you have 2 lands and a lot of payoffs, you're not really getting anywhere very fast. So I would definitely mold this as well. Cool. Second test hand. This is a mold of 6. The pod is Talion in first seat, Winota in second seat, Korvold in third seat. That's us, and Rog Ishai Control in fourth seat. The hand is Dryad Arbor, Underworld Breach, Mana Confluence, Nature's Rhythm, Lotus Cobra, Swamp, and a Noxious Revival. Thoughts on this hand, Eric?
Um, it's a mully for me. Again, I'm not doing anything on turn 1. I do not want to leave a Dryad Arbor up. It just doesn't feel really good because my best play is Dryad Arbor on 1 into a land on 2, Cobra Pass, and then I don't have a fetch land after that. I really don't like it. Also, without having a fetch land, it really renders the Noxious Revival less powerful because that's something you can do with Noxious Revival. You can keep a lower land count hand as long as it's a fetch land to just be able to buy it back. Again, without the ability to have an explosive turn 1 into a turn 2 play, and the Underworld Breach is looking really dead in this opener, I would have to ship this.
Agreed. I think this is a classic bait hand for a Korvold pilot.
Absolutely.
Even though we see Underworld Breach and our motto is all lines lead to breach, this isn't going to get you to a successful breach at all. So definitely ship this card, even though we are seeing mana generation, we are seeing consistent land drops. It's just not going to get us to where we want to be. Next test hand, we are keeping 5 here. We are in seat 3 once again. So seat 1 is Rogthras, seat 2 is Kinnan, seat 3 is us on Korvold, and seat 4 is Vivi. Our hand is an interesting one. We have Mana Confluence, Prismatic Vista, Animate Dead, Sylvan Library, Simian Spirit Guide, Deflecting Swat, and a Lion's Eye Diamond. Thoughts on this hand, Eric?
Well, this is a great example of why we play Sylvan Library, right?
I call this one an alley oop for Eric.
Yeah.
Continue. Why?
Well, when I look at this, obviously seat 3 is kind of poopy regardless. You know, we're in a, and depending on the Rock Dress build, oh gosh, if people are on the Heartwood Storyteller version or Sam's bottomless Rock Dress Pit Truffle Fries list, and then obviously everyone's just going to be on Waffles Kinnan, and then there's obviously Vivi. What I like about this, especially being on a low mult to 5, we have 2 lands, one being a fetch land. So we don't inherently have to use our fetch land turn 1, which is nice. We are going to keep the Meta Confluence, the Prismatic Vista, the Sylvan Library. I'm going to keep, obviously, the Simian Spirit Guide and probably the Lion's Eye Diamond, more than likely. Those are going to be my five.
Yep, I think I agree with this completely. I think the ability to play a draw engine turn one on seat three and stick it before your opponents can kind of get into a position where they could potentially fight on your draw engine is great. Animate Dead has no synergy in this hand at all. And then Deflecting Swat is nice to have. There's an argument to be made that it can be helpful later on because this game is not ending fast. So I could see the argument for deflecting SWAT and holding that to protect the Korvold, which is likely to resolve against a bunch of control players who are going to sandbag their interaction until you're actually winning. So I don't hate it, but at the same time, Lion's Eye Diamond is probably the safer play.
Yeah, it also just allows you to deploy it to, like, I don't want to, if I can get it out, like, let's say if I can get it out before Rock Thrust and Kennen get their Ristic and their Mystic and those types of cards out, I would like to get it out of my hand as soon as possible because nobody's
Yeah.
going to destroy it. No one's casting Meltdown, and if they do, you got me, right? Like,
If he dies, he dies. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. One last test hand here. Coming up on 3 hours. Oh my gosh. Last test hound is going to be a first seven. Seat order is Magda in seat one, us in seat two on Korvold. Seat three is Big Narset, and then seat four is Farm. The hand is Elvish Spirit Guide, Misty Rainforest, Tireless Provisioner, Hexing Squelcher, Swamp, African Swallow, aka Birds of Paradise, and a Chrome Box. We know whose list is I pulled this one from. Because
The African Swallow is the
I'm running the
biggest.
Monty Python African Swallow. It's so good, dude.
Every time I see that, I go, "What is this card again that people are
Yeah.
playing?" Like,
Dude, it's sick. I love Monty Python, so I absolutely love that printing of Birds of Paradise. Until I get a serialized Birds of Paradise, Eric, I'm rocking with the African Swallow. All
that's
right,
fair.
is this a keep?
I would keep this. The only card I don't like in this hand specifically is Hexing Squelcher, and I don't hate it. Just because you don't have to rush your Korvold, or if you top deck a really nice spell into something. I like it because you have a turn one Tireless Provisioner, and then based on your turn one Tireless Provisioner, you could even go turn two Tyler's Provisioner if you wanted to. If you, it depends on what Magda does. If Magda like has the nuts Magda hand where speed becomes a thing, maybe you just want to just get your Tyler's Provisioner out on turn one, or you can just kind of slow roll it depending on what your draw is for the turn. Also, if you want to, you can just pitch the Squelcher under the Chrome Box as well. It's not necessarily a make or break card in this hand. It doesn't develop the hand. It just depends on what your draw is. I like it because you have different routes to go with your early mana exploration. Like if you wanted to go all in on the turn one Tyler's Provisioner, or if you wanted to wait till turn two Tyler's Provisioner, it gives you that flexibility based on your draws and based on how everybody else develops as well.
Yeah, I think this is the definition of a hand that you keep, but you don't necessarily know what you're going to do until you see that first card, right? So it's
Right.
definitely a keep in my opinion. I think that what you draw for turn really dictates how you take this. And I think that there is a world for sure where you do wait on the tireless provisioner and you don't scare the table by throwing that down, especially if you're playing against people who have played against Korvold before. Tireless provisioner is a scare card. Plain and simple. Every time I cast that card in my meta, everyone's like, oh my gosh, we need to kill that as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a scare card. So sometimes you want to wait to cast a tireless provisioner so that you can guarantee that you get a fetch land, or at least you get a single trigger off of your tireless provisioner, right? Because that's the nice thing about the card. You cast the card, even if someone has removal, card resolves, you're in your main phase. No one has priority until you play that land, put a trigger on the stack, right? If they decide to shoot the tireless now, you just respond by cracking the fetch, make another treasure, so at least you're getting something out of it. I think there's an argument to be made for sure to hold off on the tire list, but it kind of just depends on the vibe of the pod. If Magda has a nut hand start, I think I agree with you that you're probably more likely to just cast it first because you're able to just point the finger at Magda. But it does feel a little fundamentally wrong to not play a turn one bop if you have a turn one bop. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Again, that's the beauty of this hand because you have the flexibility. to just basically dictate however how you want to go with it. And I don't think there's going to be like a right or wrong. Being in seat, like if you were in seat 4 or even seat 3, you would have a more clear definition of what to do. But
Yeah.
being in seat 2, you kind of have that. Well, I don't really know how Narset and Blue Farm are going to develop, so it just depends.
Yeah.
And then that's the beauty of it. You got lots of flexibility, and the best part about this hand is you don't have to waste your fetch land turn 1.
You do not. All right. Well, that's the last test hand. Eric, we've made it almost 3 hours now. Is there any other tips or tricks for Korvold? If someone came up to you and said, "Hey, Eric, I want to learn about Korvold. What's the best way to go about it? What are some tips and tricks?" Anything that you want to just give as a general PSA?
Absolutely. You need to book a Korvold coaching session with me, and then we
There
will
you
go
go.
through it
Let's
and help you
go.
step by step. You know,
Eric, do you have coaching sessions?
I have coached several Korvold people before.
Let's go.
I don't
Okay.
advertise it because, and I'm like, basically, like I was a professional coach. For those who don't know, I was in the health and wellness field for 10 years, owned my own company, personal trainer, developed into multiple different things. I had about 8 certifications. I've worked with over 1,000 people in over a decade. And then I turned entrepreneur, built up a massive team in a gym that was 60,000 square feet, team of 40 people, turned it into a $2 million profit a year business in 9 months. Then handed it off to the person who I handpicked, stepped down, took a little time off with the wife, decided to go into more franchises, bought into a franchise, built it up, sold it with my business partner. And then retired is such a weird word to say because I'm not retired at all. But after I did that, I decided to become a father, and that's what I've been focusing on. But yes, so in terms of actual coaching, I have at least 15 years experience working with people in a very professional setting. It's pretty easy to translate magic coaching into that because before I ever got into CDH, I was a 60 card player,
Mhm.
played to the highest level outside of Worlds, played to the Pro Tour level, nationals, you name it, won hundreds and hundreds of tournaments, whether that's states, regionals, those types of things. I don't ever talk about that type of stuff because unfortunately, Sam's got me on the Worlds thing. So I'm never
Yeah.
like, well, but, and I've played a lot of other card games to the national level as well. Card games like Yu-Gi-Oh! For example, you could actually still Google one of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Top 8 nationals, which I was playing a big dragon in my deck, which was awesome.
Boom. I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, but sounds sick. And from what you're saying, Eric, it sounds like you're a full-time Korvold coach now. Is that true?
No, no.
Retired and now full-time Korvold coach. You heard it here,
Oh my
folks.
lord.
Eric Taylor.
No, not hardly. I do give a lot of information. So I work with people, and it ends up being more so an exploration of the individual than the actual deck itself. What reveals about a person typically reveals how they play CDH, what they're trying to get out of CDH. I work more so with the magic mechanics of an individual and their ideology as a person. Once you understand the person, once you understand that CDH is not a magic game, it's a people's game,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a lot easier to work with people. Just like a famous line in a movie that I don't know if it's 100% true of how it was said, but in the movie The Founder, he goes, "You're not in the burger business, you're in the real estate business." And that's the
Mm.
truth. And once you understand that, I learned that actually from personal training. Once you learn that you're not in the reps and sets of personal training, but you are into understanding that person's individuality,
Yeah,
then the training can be whatever. And that is not to take away the biomechanics of anything because you have to factor all that in.
true.
Most clients don't care about that stuff. I did. So it was always kind of a hard balance for me to one of my biggest flaws is I over deliver. That's always been a flaw of mine as a personal trainer. I really want to give everybody the large amount of resources to succeed because I don't think gatekeeping personal training for a price point was right. Health and fitness should not have a gatekeeping price point, which was always tough. So if somebody paid for a $50 session, they're getting like $200 worth of sessions worth of value out of me. So
Yeah.
I just like working with people, and 9 times out of 10, I just like will work with somebody for free just because I enjoy talking about the deck. And a lot of times you learn more about what you're teaching than what the person is from you. Like you really learn a lot about yourself. And that's might be a little deep for a Korvold podcast, but
Oh, I love it.
coaching is coaching. So just be careful who you're hiring out there because there's a lot of good Magic players. There's a lot of good CDH players.
Yeah, for
There's
sure.
not a lot of good people who know how to paradise program design. And that's the point because if they're not developing you as a player, then they're not doing you justice. I promise you. And
Yeah.
that's from somebody who's built multiple 6-figure businesses, 7-figure businesses. I sound like the infomercial guys that like Instagram and
Yeah.
stuff. Come join my coursing.
We're on the Korvold grind set right now.
Yeah.
um,
Oh my
um,
gosh.
but anyway, the most important thing that Eric can bring to your coaching is the fact that you're listening to a Korvold podcast. And there are very few dedicated Korvold pilots that are currently playing in CDH high level tournaments in general. I think that that's probably the most important thing that you can bring to the table is just the fact that if you're looking for somebody to help you with Korvold, there's nobody better. And with that, Eric, is there anything else that you want to promote here? We're coming right up on that 3 hour mark, our sweet spot. We're going to match the amount of time that we spent in the 2025 guide, Eric. We did it. Anything else you want to say?
In just terms of pure promotion, I would like to say if you are looking for a delicious coffee, please consider visiting my website, which is cripplecreekcoffee.co, and check out all the coffees that I have hand selected and curated and designed for the website. Cripple Creek is where I grew up on a farm. I'm a farm kid, still am at heart, still do a lot of stuff on the farm. And Cripple Creek is a beautiful creek that happens to run to a large river system where I live. And it's tremendous amount of memories. I would not trade that childhood for anything. Being able to run down to the creek in the middle of the summer, summer evening, go catch frogs, go fishing, doing all the fun stuff, the memories that you learn in design, really kind of sculpt who you are. And I developed a coffee brand around that. And not only is the coffee brand designed around that, but it's for a larger thing that I'm working on, which is just going to be Cripple Creek Farms. My wife and I are trying to buy said farm from my family, which
Ooh,
is 309 acres. And I would be a full-time rancher at that point.
that's pretty awesome, dude. We got big things ahead. And there's going to be a giant Korvold scarecrow out on that farm, right? Right, Eric? Just build a
uh,
life-size Korvold. Who says no?
I mean, I'll tell you what, if I did that, what we want to ultimately turn it into, we want to have a wedding venue there, an events venue as well, and retain the land and make sure it's just beautiful and pristine and to honor my grandparents who
Oh,
have 100-year legacy there and they
amazing.
deserve it. So that's something that we're working on right now. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'm actually a kind of a coffee enthusiast. I don't promote my business a lot on social media because my social media is mostly magic. And I just try to keep that separate. I try to keep my fun stuff, and then I keep my professional stuff, my professional stuff. But I love coffee. I do lots of stuff with it.
Nice.
I have a pretty long culinary background as well. I'm also 40 years old. So people are wondering, like, how have you done all these things? I'm like, I'm 40, man. Like, I've lived,
You're a magic boomer, Eric. You're talking about how you're playing plane shift standard, dude.
I mean, I was playing Urza Saga
There you
standards.
go.
So.
Yeah. That's true. Well, that's incredible. We'll throw the links down below. I think that's the most unique promotion we've ever had on the podcast. But everybody check out the coffee in the link down below. All right, y'all. We made it to 3 hours. Thank you so much, Eric, for coming on and doing this. I'm sure that the Korvold community is going to love it. Last couple of things I want to tie off. If you want to join our Taxi Patreon, that helps a lot. Check out the link down below for that. If you're interested in getting Korvold specific tokens, you can do so at the Patreon. So I don't have a token shop or anything like that, but I do have some sick ass Korvold draw trigger and sacrifice trigger tokens that I make for the patrons. Shockingly, Jorge's going to get another shout out here. I did it for you, bud. Um, but if you're interested in some of those tokens, just join the Patreon. You'll also get access to the whole Discord where you can chat Korvold with me and chat CEDH in general with the rest of our community. So thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much to everybody. Thank you so much to the Korvold Discord. And if you stuck around for 3 hours, damn, you are ready to go crush some CEDH tables on Korvold. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.